Sleep matters. The flattery that feeds chains. Imagine a world where every word of praise you hear is not just a celebration of you, but a subtle tightening of invisible chains. Picture yourself walking through a grand hall where voices echo your greatness back to you, each compliment painting you as better, stronger, smarter than you even feel inside. At first it feels good, almost addictive, like drinking warm sunlight. But slowly, you begin to notice something odd. The more they praise you, the less you question them. You start agreeing to things you might have once rejected. You nod when you should hesitate. You say yes when a no would have protected you. Their flattery is not a gift, it is a tool. Each sweet word is another link in a chain wrapped around your mind. At first, you wear it proudly, like a medal you earned. Over time, it becomes heavier, pulling at your ability to say what you truly believe. You do not want to disappoint those who lifted you so high. You feel a duty to live up to the image they created for you, and just like that, you are no longer acting from freedom. You are performing a role they designed. The trap of flattery is not in the lie, but in the truth it exaggerates. It picks the parts of you that already crave validation and stretches them like canvas across a frame of expectations. You might think you are being loved for who you are. In reality, you are being loved for who they need you to be. Flattery weaponizes your hunger for approval. It shows you a mirror where you look heroic, flawless, worthy. And without realizing, you start living for that reflection. You let yourself be guided by their praise. You surrender the messy, complex, authentic parts of you in exchange for applause. This is not kindness. This is control dressed in gold. They do not have to force you to obey. They only have to convince you that their approval is oxygen and that your survival depends on breathing it. If you find yourself in rooms where compliments come too easily, be wary. If you notice that flattery often precedes a request, a favor, a demand, recognize the pattern. True appreciation does not shackle you to an identity. True admiration does not demand your submission. The flattery that feeds chains whispers to your deepest insecurities, promising to silence them forever. But in truth, it only buries them deeper, tying your sense of worth to the hands that hold the chain. Freedom begins with noticing. Freedom begins with asking yourself why the compliments feel so necessary. It begins when you decide that you would rather lose applause than lose yourself. The apology that sharpens blame. Picture this. Someone wrongs you. Maybe it is small or maybe it cuts deep. And then, with a soft voice and downcast eyes, they apologize. You hear the words you were aching to hear. I am sorry. I did not mean to hurt you. You start to feel lighter. You want to forgive. But as the conversation unfolds, something strange happens. Somehow, you find yourself explaining. You find yourself justifying why you felt hurt. You find yourself wondering if maybe you overreacted. Their apology, instead of healing you, turns the spotlight back onto you. Suddenly, you are defending your own feelings. You are doubting your own experience. Their apology sharpens blame and aims it at you. It is a clever trap because it wears the clothing of humility. It seems soft, it seems selfless. But underneath, it plants seeds of guilt in your heart. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe you were too sensitive. Maybe it is your fault that you were hurt. In truth, the apology was never about taking responsibility. It was about managing perception. It was about controlling the story. When someone apologizes in a way that shifts the weight of pain onto your shoulders, it is not healing, it is manipulation. A real apology acknowledges harm without condition. It holds space for your pain without trying to edit it. But the apology that sharpens blame rewrites the script. It suggests that their mistake is something you created by misinterpreting, by expecting too much, by not being strong enough. The brilliance of this trap is that it feels polite, it feels reasonable. It feels like compromise, and yet it leaves you more confused and less certain than before. You question your reality. You silence your instincts. You even end up comforting the very person who hurt you. You reassure them that you know they meant well. You take on the burden of mending the broken pieces they shattered. If you ever leave an apology feeling smaller, more doubtful, more burdened, it was not really an apology. It was a sharpened tool disguised as compassion. Healing starts when you recognize that your pain is real, even when others dress it in soft words. Healing starts when you refuse to carry blame that was carefully packed into a velvet box and handed to you with a smile. Do not let apologies become weapons against your own heart. The smile that bites back. Imagine meeting someone whose smile lights up a room. Warmth radiates from them. You are drawn in, charmed, maybe even disarmed. You think to yourself, here is someone safe. Here is someone who means well. Their smile becomes a signal to lower your guard. But deep within that easy charm, something else lurks. The smile hides intentions that are not so pure. It is not about kindness, it is about strategy. Every laugh, every gentle word, every inviting gesture is calculated. You are not connecting with a person. You are entering a game you do not even know you are playing. The smile that bites back does not attack right away. It waits. It gathers information. It watches how much you reveal when you feel safe. It listens to your dreams, your fears, your weaknesses, not to understand, but to use. And then, when the time is right, the bite comes. Sometimes it is a betrayal. Sometimes it is a demand. Sometimes it is a pressure you cannot quite explain but feel nonetheless. You wonder how someone who made you feel so seen could hurt you. You blame yourself for trusting too fast. You tell yourself you should have known better. But the truth is, you were not wrong to want connection. You were not foolish to hope for sincerity. It is not your openness that is the problem. It is the weaponization of trust that is the true betrayal. The smile that bites back is a trap crafted with expert care. It turns your own humanity against you. It teaches you to doubt warmth. It trains you to second-guess every act of kindness. Over time, it builds a fortress around your heart, not to protect you from harm, but to isolate you from real intimacy. If you've ever been bitten by a smile, you know the sting. You know how it bruises something deep inside. Something that once believed people mean what they show. But the way back to trust is not through shutting down. It is through learning to see clearly. Watch how people act when no one is watching. Notice if their kindness costs you more than it gives. Pay attention to whether their words and actions align when nothing is at stake. True warmth does not need manipulation. True connection does not require performance. If a smile feels like a hook more than a hand, if it pulls you closer but fills you with unease, listen to that feeling. Your instincts are not wrong. They are the compass that leads you back to yourself. Trust is not built through smiles. It is built through consistency, through truth, through the slow unfolding of sincerity that does not bite when you are most exposed. The touch that tangles minds. Imagine you are walking through a crowded marketplace. You are focused on your path, weaving through the noise, the colors, the endless pull of attention. Then, out of nowhere, a soft touch brushes your arm, not strong enough to alarm you, just enough to steal a fraction of your attention. For a moment, your mind loses its sharpness, your steps slow. Your thoughts scatter. A simple touch, almost forgettable, but it changes the entire rhythm of your movement. Now think deeper. How many touches have you felt that you never noticed, but that still rewired your path, just a little bit each time? In the world of influence, the touch that tangles minds is rarely about physical contact. It is about the emotional hand that reaches into your mind without permission. It can come through a glance, a word placed just right, an offer disguised as a favor. It can arrive as an apology laced with expectation, as a compliment too perfectly timed, as a help that hides hooks. When someone touches your mind, They do not always need to convince you of anything. They only need to disturb your balance slightly. They need you to question your step, your certainty, your instincts. The moment hesitation sneaks in, your mind becomes vulnerable. And when you lose the firmness of your stride, someone else can guide your next move without ever seeming to force it. The touch that tangles minds is not violent. It is subtle. It is what happens when you find yourself agreeing before you realize it. When you find yourself doubting a decision you were sure of just moments before. It is when your confidence thins not because you were wrong, but because the certainty was touched by invisible fingers. This touch is woven into conversations, negotiations, relationships. It is in the way someone structures their silence after you speak, making you feel unsure of your own words. It is in the way someone frames their approval so that you chase it without knowing why. It is in the way someone offers you comfort, not because you need it, but because they need you to need them. When your mind is tangled, you begin to seek permission for your own steps. You begin to anchor your choices to the reactions of others. Slowly, you forget how to stand without leaning, and the tragedy is that you rarely notice when it happens. Because the touch is soft, the mind does not rebel against a soft touch. It questions itself instead. It rethinks its own strength. It hands over the reins piece by piece, thinking it is being careful, thinking it is being wise. The way out of this tangle is not to harden yourself against all touches. That would only make you rigid, not free. The way out is to strengthen your awareness. To ask quietly, each time you feel your mind hesitate, why it hesitated. Was it truth, or was it touch? A mind that knows itself cannot be tangled by gentle fingers. It does not lose its path because someone brushed its edges. It notices the touch, respects its existence, but does not lose its direction. And in that strength, it becomes untouchable. The silence that sells lies. Picture this. You are sitting in a room full of people. There is a heavy story unfolding, and everyone is listening. No one speaks. No one corrects. No one challenges. The silence feels respectful, but beneath it, something else grows. Agreement, assumption, belief. Silence can seem innocent, but it is one of the greatest sellers of lies. When a lie enters the room and silence greets it, the lie feels welcome. It plants roots in the quiet soil of unchallenged minds. It begins to bloom, fed by the stillness. It becomes harder and harder to question it, because the longer it stands unopposed, the more it feels like truth. We think lies need to shout to spread. Often, they only need to whisper once and be left alone. Silence does the rest of the work. Every time you witness something false and say nothing, a small contract is signed between you and the lie. You do not have to believe it, but you allow it to exist unchecked in the minds of others. And the more minds that accept it, the more the atmosphere changes. Reality bends. Not because of force, but because of quiet. In relationships, silence often sells lies about intentions. Someone hurts you, but you say nothing. They apologize without meaning it, and you accept it with a nod. Over time, they believe they are forgiven. Over time, you convince yourself you are healing. But inside, a fracture deepens. A lie nests where words should have flown. In families, in friendships, in communities. Silence sells the lie that everything is fine, that no one is hurting, that no one is pretending. It allows wounds to fester beautifully hidden under the surface. The more you stay silent, the more the lie becomes culture. Sometimes we choose silence because we fear conflict. Sometimes because we do not feel strong enough to bear the weight of honesty. Sometimes because we convince ourselves that the truth would do more harm than good. But whether it is fear or strategy, the result is the same. The lie gets sold. Silence is not neutral. It is an active choice. A mind that wants to stay free must remember that the way out is not to fill every space with noise. It is to choose your words carefully, but to choose them. It is to decide when something matters enough that silence would be a betrayal. It is to remember that while every word you speak changes the world slightly, so does every word you choose not to speak. The nod that numbs choices. Imagine standing at a fork in the road. Two paths stretch before you. One looks easier, one looks harder. You know which one you want to take. But before you step, someone nods at the easier path. Just a nod. No words, no push. Just an acknowledgement, subtle but heavy. And suddenly, you find yourself drifting toward the easier way. The nod that numbs choices is not about control. It is about suggestion so soft that it feels like your own thought. It is the way approval shapes our actions without needing to explain itself. It is the way we seek confirmation from faces we trust before trusting ourselves. Nods come in many forms. A mentor's smile when you suggest a safe dream. A friend's slight tilt of the head when you express hesitation. A parent's relaxed face when you choose the familiar. Tiny signals that train you to move where comfort waits. Over time, you begin to numb yourself to your own instincts. You stop feeling the full weight of your choices because you outsource part of your decision-making. You look for the nod. You wait for it. And if it does not come, you hesitate. The world loves to nod at the comfortable, at the predictable, at the dreams that do not scare the system. So the more you look for nods, the more you are nudged away from risk, from truth, from wildness. And choices without risk lose their depth. Choices without fear lose their power. Choices numbed by approval lose their authenticity. The tragedy is not just that you make safer choices, it is that you forget you had other ones. You stop even seeing the harder path as real. You forget the wild longing you once felt to take it. The way out is not to hate the nods. It is to recognize them. To notice when you are being encouraged gently toward something. To pause and ask yourself, is this my step, or am I borrowing someone else's ease? A mind that stays awake to its own hunger will not be numbed by nods. It will feel the signal, but still choose from within. It will walk the harder road if it calls. It will nod to itself before seeking approval from any face outside. The praise that buries fear. Picture a child who once feared speaking up. One day they say something clever and the adults around them erupt in praise. The child feels a rush of warmth, of belonging. The fear they carried about speaking is smothered, but not healed. It is buried under a new expectation. Praise is powerful. It can lift. It can heal. But it can also trap. When you are praised for overcoming a fear, the world often stops there. It crowns you a conqueror and expects you to stay brave forever. It does not leave space for the fact that the fear may still live inside you, wounded but breathing. So you smile. You perform courage. You push down the trembling moments because they feel like betrayal. You become not the person healing fear, but the person who is supposed to have no fear. Praise can become a prison. Over time, the fear does not die. It hardens. It becomes shameful. You do not talk about it because you are afraid of losing the identity that praise gave you. You hide it even from yourself. The fear, starved of sunlight, twists. It shows up in other ways, in anger, in exhaustion, in perfectionism, in withdrawal, but never by name, because to name it would be to confess you are not the brave one. They applauded. The way out is to remember that real healing does not look like erasing fear. It looks like walking with it honestly. It looks like telling the truth even when people expect your strength. It looks like making space for trembling hands and uncertain hearts. A mind that loves itself does not need to bury its fear under gold. It does not need to armor itself with praise. It can say, I am still afraid, sometimes, and I am still moving. And that truth is more powerful than any performance of fearlessness. The kindness that carves scars. Imagine being offered a gift. It is wrapped beautifully, handed to you with a smile. You accept it, touched by the kindness. Only later do you realize that the gift came with a debt you did not choose. Kindness can heal, but kindness can also cut. When kindness is given with expectation, it stops being kindness. It becomes a transaction disguised as generosity. It becomes a hook wrapped in silk. You feel it when someone helps you and reminds you of it later. When someone gives you patience but keeps score. When someone lifts you up but never lets you forget who gave you wings. Each act of this kind of kindness carves small scars into your trust. You start to doubt gifts. You start to question motives. You start to wonder if every hand extended toward you carries a hidden weight. Over time, you may learn to refuse help even when you need it. You may armor yourself against generosity, not because you are ungrateful, but because the price of accepting has too often been higher than the gift itself. The tragedy is that real kindness is supposed to free, not bind. It is supposed to nourish, not weigh down. It is supposed to heal, not carve. The way out is not to stop receiving kindness. It is to sharpen your sight, to feel the energy that comes with the gift, to notice whether it feels light or heavy in your hands. A mind that trusts its own senses can tell the difference. It can receive freely given kindness with open hands and walk away when kindness carries invisible chains. And in doing so, it teaches others too. That real kindness expects nothing. That real love leaves no scars. The guilt that grows roots. Imagine carrying a small stone in your pocket. At first, it feels like nothing, a tiny weight, something you can forget about as you move through your day. But slowly, without noticing, you reach into your pocket again and again. You touch the stone. You remember why it is there. You think about the moment you first picked it up. Each time you remember, the stone grows heavier. It grows rougher. It feels sharper against your skin. What started as a simple memory becomes a part of you. This is what guilt does when it grows roots inside your mind. It begins small, sometimes even just a whisper. Maybe you disappointed someone. Maybe you failed to meet a standard you barely even understood. And instead of letting it pass through you, you hold on to it. You cradle it like a responsibility. You tell yourself that carrying it makes you a better person. But the truth is, guilt is not always about growth. Sometimes it is about control. Guilt can be planted by others with careful words and heavy silences. It can be fed by expectations that were never really yours. And once it takes root, it begins to shape how you see yourself. You stop acting from freedom. You start acting from a need to atone, to prove yourself, to undo some invisible wrong. The guilt that grows roots convinces you that you are always falling short. No matter how much you give, it tells you it is not enough. No matter how much you sacrifice, it whispers that you are still selfish. It pushes you to abandon your needs, your dreams, your boundaries. It makes you believe that punishment is noble. But punishment without end is not noble. It is a prison. Real guilt is supposed to teach you something and then let you go. It is meant to guide, not enslave. When guilt turns into a root system tangled through your sense of self, you lose sight of who you were before it. If you feel like you are carrying a burden that keeps getting heavier, even though you have already tried to make things right, maybe it is not guilt helping you grow. Maybe it is guilt growing through you, feeding on your doubt and your longing for forgiveness. Healing begins when you realize you can acknowledge your mistakes without chaining yourself to them. You are allowed to learn without punishing yourself forever. You are allowed to forgive yourself even if others will not. You are not a bad person for wanting to put down the stone. The promise that poisons hope. Picture a moment when someone looks you in the eye and says words you have been desperate to hear. I will never leave you. I will always support you. You are safe with me. The world slows down. You finally exhale. You build dreams on the foundation of their words. You make plans. You surrender parts of your fear. You trust, But then, slowly, you begin to see cracks. Promises are made but not kept. Excuses replace actions. Smiles cover betrayal. And the hope that once lifted you begins to curdle into something darker. When someone makes promises they do not intend to keep, they are not just lying about their actions. They are reshaping your reality. They give you a future that will never come. They make you invest your heart into a fantasy while they quietly withdraw their own. The promise that poisons hope is one of the cruelest traps because it feeds on your brightest instincts. Your desire to believe, your hunger for connection, your willingness to see the best in someone. The poison does not act immediately. It drips slowly into the soil of your dreams, one broken commitment at a time, one unreturned call, one missed moment of support, until finally you realize that you were the only one standing there, believing in a world that was never real. Broken promises do not just hurt because they are lies. They hurt because they require you to betray yourself. You have to silence the warnings in your gut. You have to excuse behavior you know is wrong. You have to pretend you are not disappointed until the pretense becomes unbearable. Hope, when weaponized, becomes a prison that teaches you to doubt your own vision. If you find yourself holding on to promises that never bear fruit, remember this. It is not weakness to hope. It is not foolishness to trust. The mistake is not in dreaming. The mistake is in refusing to see when the dream was built on sand. Protect your hope by planting it in places where actions match words. Protect your heart by remembering that real promises are not spoken loudly. They are proven quietly over time. The approval that anchors doubt. Imagine standing on a stage, lights blinding your eyes, an audience waiting for you to speak. You open your mouth, hesitate. You look to the crowd, searching for a nod, a smile, some signal that you are doing well. When you see approval, you feel relief. You continue. But when you do not, you shrink inside yourself. You second-guess your words. You doubt your ideas. You wonder if you even belong on the stage at all. This is how the approval of others can anchor doubt deep within you. When you tie your confidence to the reactions of others, you are no longer the driver of your own life. You are a puppet dangling from invisible strings, waiting for someone else to pull the right ones so you can feel worthy. Approval feels good because it mimics validation. It feels like belonging. It feels like success. But when your self-worth depends on external approval, every silence becomes a verdict. Every frown becomes a sentence. Every absence of applause becomes a reason to retreat. People who seek approval above truth slowly learn to filter themselves. They avoid saying what they believe. They edit who they are. They shrink their dreams to fit the mold of what others will accept. And with every compromise, the foundation of doubt grows thicker beneath their feet. The approval that anchors doubt is not always harsh. Sometimes it is sweet. Sometimes it is wrapped in kindness. Sometimes it is given with good intentions. But if it becomes the compass you use to navigate your life, you will never move freely. You will move only where you are allowed. Real confidence comes not from applause, but from self-trust. It is built in silence, in solitude, in the moments when no one is watching, and you still choose to stand tall. If you find yourself paralyzed by the fear of disappointing others, if you find your voice trembling because you cannot see their smiles, it is time to ask whose approval really matters. And it is time to remember that your worth was never supposed to be put to a vote. The laugh that lowers guards. Picture sitting in a room full of strangers. The conversation is stiff. Everyone is polite but guarded. Then someone tells a joke. Laughter bubbles up across the room. Shoulders relax. Smiles spread. Barriers fall. In that moment, the energy changes. Laughter is a powerful tool. It softens resistance. It builds bridges. It makes people feel connected, even when they know little about each other. But laughter can also be used to disarm for reasons less pure. When someone uses humor not to connect, but to manipulate, it becomes a tool for lowering defenses so they can get what they want. The laugh that lowers guards is not always malicious at first glance. It can feel innocent. It can feel natural. But it creates a space where skepticism is frowned upon. It makes you feel rude for questioning. It makes you feel uptight for setting boundaries. It pushes you into saying yes when you want to say no, because you do not want to be the one who kills the mood. Humor, in the wrong hands, becomes a lever that tips you into compliance. You let your guard down because you associate laughter with safety. You trust because smiling faces feel less threatening than serious ones. You agree because you feel closer to someone you barely know. But trust built too quickly is often trust built without foundation. If someone always uses humor when you express discomfort, pay attention. If you find yourself laughing off concerns that would normally matter to you, notice. If every boundary you set is met with a joke instead of respect, that is not harmless. That is strategy. True laughter strengthens relationships. It does not erase them. Real connection allows room for seriousness when it matters. You do not have to trade your instincts for the price of a good time. The hug that hides knives. Imagine a hug so warm that it melts your fear. You feel safe. You feel wanted. You feel like you have come home. And yet, hidden within that embrace is something sharp, something cold, something that waits until you have closed your eyes and let down your walls. This is the hug that hides knives. Sometimes betrayal does not come from enemies. It comes from those who know exactly how to hold you, so you will never see the blade coming. It comes from those who studied your heart so they could slip past its defenses. Betrayal cloaked in affection is the hardest to see because it uses your own longing against you. You crave the touch. You need the reassurance. You trust the comfort. And so you ignore the warning signs. You explain away the lies. You make excuses for the wounds. Because how could someone who held you so tenderly mean you harm? How could someone whose arms felt like shelter turn out to be the storm? The truth is, the most dangerous betrayals are not always cruel on the surface. They are gentle. They are patient. They are precise. The hug that hides knives is not accidental. It is designed to break you slowly, to make you question your worth, your judgment, your memory. If you feel more hurt after being comforted than you did before, if you feel smaller after being embraced, listen to that feeling. Trust is not built through physical closeness alone. It is built through consistent care, through honesty, through actions that match words. Affection without respect is not love. It is strategy. The whisper that weaves control. Picture a voice so soft it feels like a secret. A voice that leans close and says things no one else hears. A voice that makes you feel chosen, special, seen. The whisper seems harmless. It feels intimate. It feels true. But whispers can also be tools of control. A whispered word can bypass your defenses because it feels personal. It feels urgent. It feels real. When someone whispers doubt into your mind, they are planting seeds that grow in silence. They tell you who you can trust. They tell you what you should fear. They tell you what you should do. But they do it quietly enough that you never think to question it. The whisper that weaves control creates invisible threads that bind you to their will. You begin to see the world through their fears, their judgments, their desires. You mistake their paranoia for your own caution. You mistake their manipulation for your own instincts. Control built through whispers is harder to fight because it does not shout commands. It suggests. It hints. It makes you believe you arrived at the conclusion yourself. If you find yourself acting from fear that was never yours, if you find yourself pulling away from people you once loved based on stories you only heard in secret, pause. Ask yourself whose voice you are following. Ask yourself whose fears you are carrying. A true friend does not need to whisper to control you. They speak openly. They encourage you to think for yourself. They trust you to choose your own path, even when it leads away from them. The glance that grants permission. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a swimming pool. You are not sure if you want to jump in. The water looks cold. You hesitate. Then you catch someone's eye. They give you a small nod, a glance that says, "It is all right." Suddenly, you feel brave enough. Suddenly, the hesitation melts away. You jump. This is the power of a glance that grants permission. It is silent, but it speaks louder than words. It tells you that you are allowed. It removes the invisible barrier between desire and action. Throughout life, many of our biggest steps are not taken because we were absolutely sure. They are taken because someone glanced at us with approval, a small tilt of the eyes that said, "Yes, you can. Yes, it is. Okay?" At first it feels like freedom. Someone gives you the courage to act. Someone breaks the ice between you and your fear. But over time, if you are not careful, you may begin to need the glance. You may wait for it. You may hesitate in every decision, pausing to seek that flash of outside approval before moving. This dependency is not obvious. It hides behind feelings of camaraderie and support. It wears the clothes of community, but inside, it seeds doubt. It teaches your mind that your choices are not fully yours unless they are mirrored in another's eyes. The glance that grants permission can be beautiful when it lifts you from fear, but it can be dangerous when it becomes the crutch your mind leans on. You will find yourself choosing careers, relationships, dreams based on the looks you receive instead of the pull you feel inside. You will find yourself shrinking from desires that are met with no glance, even if those desires burn brightly within you. The way to protect yourself is to become your own glance, to look inward before looking outward, to nod to your own longing first before seeking a sign in someone else's face. A mind that grants itself permission becomes powerful. It moves not from the shadows of others' gazes, but from the fire of its own certainty. And when it receives a glance of approval, it smiles, but it does not depend on it. The gift that guts freedom. Picture someone handing you a golden key. It is beautiful. It glows with promise. They tell you it will open many doors. You accept it with gratitude. But later you find that the key only fits doors they choose. The key that was meant to free you quietly chains you instead. This is the gift that guts freedom. It is the gift that appears generous, but is loaded with invisible strings. In life, not all gifts are gifts. Some are silent contracts. Some are cages painted to look like open fields. Some are acts of kindness, wrapped around control. You may receive an opportunity, a favor, a lifeline at a time you need it most. And the gratitude is real. But if the giver expects ownership over your next steps, then the gift was never clean. The gift demands loyalty. It demands repayment. It demands that your choices now bend to the shape of their generosity. And because you are grateful, because you remember the moment of help, you feel trapped. You feel obligated to accept paths you do not want, to silence dreams that no longer fit the script you were given. Freedom gutted by gifts feels confusing. It is not a violent takeover. It is a slow surrender. It is saying yes when you mean no, because your mind carries the weight of what you owe. The way out is not to reject every gift. It is to see clearly, to accept gifts with open eyes, to ask silently, does this gift come with the expectation of ownership over my choices? A gift that truly frees you will not demand anything back. A gift that loves you will celebrate your flight, not resent your direction. A mind that values its freedom will learn to say thank you without chaining itself. It will honor gratitude without sacrificing sovereignty. The blame that blinds memory. Imagine trying to remember a story, but every time you reach for the memory, someone else's voice fills in the blanks. They tell you what you should feel about it. They tell you what you must have meant. They place the blame carefully in your hands, and soon you cannot tell if it was ever yours to hold. This is the blame that blinds memory. It rewrites your past quietly. Blame is powerful. It does not only assign fault, it rewires how you remember. When you are blamed repeatedly for something, your mind begins to shape itself around that narrative. Even if at first you resist, Eventually, the story settles into the grooves of your memory. It becomes easier to believe than to fight. Over time, you forget the details that do not fit the blame. You forget the reasons, the context, the heart that beat behind your actions. You remember only the shame, the wrongness, the guilt. Blame is not just a mirror that reflects mistakes. It is a sculptor that reshapes identity. In families, in relationships, in communities, the repetition of blame can erase the truth of who you were. It can create versions of you that you do not recognize but still carry. The most dangerous thing about blame is not that it punishes. It is that it edits. The way out is to guard your memory fiercely, to sit with your own versions of events before accepting the ones handed to you, to trust that your heart knew its reasons, even if others only saw the results. A mind that honors its own history does not let blame blind it. It carries its truths, messy and imperfect, but its own. The tease that ties souls. Picture a fisherman casting a shimmering lure into a river. The lure sparkles, catches the light, dances on the surface. The fish rises, drawn not by hunger but by curiosity. It bites, and it is caught. This is the tease that ties souls. Teasing can be playful. It can be a light dance between spirits. But there is a deeper tease, a more dangerous one. It is the tease that awakens longing without offering fulfillment. It is the tease that binds without ever embracing. In relationships, this tease is the glance that lingers too long. The words that hint but do not declare. The touch that promises but retreats. It creates a hunger, a pull, a dependency. You find yourself thinking about them not because they gave you love, but because they gave you the edge of it and then withdrew. You are not tied by affection. You are tied by the ache for more. The tease carves space in your mind. It grows roots. It makes you believe that if you just try harder, move closer, shine brighter, the fullness will come. But it rarely does, because the power of the tease lies in its incompleteness. The soul tied by teasing loses itself slowly. It bends to the rhythm of another's withholding. It mistakes hope for connection. The way out is to see the pattern, to recognize when you are being fed hunger instead of nourishment, to choose relationships that offer substance, not shadows. A mind that honors its own worth does not chase lures. It swims in waters where it is seen, chosen, and met fully. The story that stains trust. Imagine reading a letter about yourself written by someone else. The words are sharp, the description's unfair. But because the letter circulates long enough, people begin to believe it. They look at you through the lens of someone else's story. This is the story that stains trust. Stories are powerful. They create reputations. They shape expectations. They draw lines around people. When someone tells a story about you, and that story carries betrayal, failure, or weakness, it plants seeds of doubt in the minds of others. Even if you act with honesty, even if you live with integrity, the stain remains. It is hard to erase, hard to explain away, because trust, once stained, becomes fragile. Every small misstep becomes proof of the story. Every delay, every flaw, every silence is colored by the suspicion. You are not fighting for your character. You are fighting against a narrative. The tragedy is that people rarely question the stories they hear first. They absorb them. They build their beliefs on them. The way out is painful but real. It is to live so clearly, so consistently, that over time your life rewrites the story. It is to remember that you cannot control what others believe, but you can control the truth you carry. A mind that stays rooted in its own light will eventually outshine the stains others try to throw. The pity that pollutes pride. Picture achieving something after great struggle. You climb the mountain, breathless, aching, victorious. But when you reach the top, instead of admiration, you are met with pity. They pat your back gently. They whisper how sorry they are for your hard journey. And suddenly your pride curdles. This is the pity that pollutes pride. Pity can feel like care, but it often carries a message. It says, you are small. It says, you are unfortunate. It says, your strength is not inspiring but sad. When you are pitied, your victories feel diminished. Your resilience feels mocked. Your battle scars are seen not as proof of strength but as marks of misfortune. Over time, being pitied teaches you to doubt the worth of your own journey. It makes you shrink when you should stand tall. It makes you apologize for your struggles instead of celebrating your survival. The way out is to refuse to let pity define your pride. To honor your own battles, even if others see them through lenses of sadness. A mind that treasures its own fight wears its scars as medals, not as reasons for sorrow. The shout that shapes identity. Imagine being a child hearing your name shouted across a playground, not with love, but with anger, with judgment, with disappointment. Over time, you start to associate your name, your being, with that sound. This is the shout that shapes identity. Words shouted at you, especially when you are vulnerable, sink deep. They do not just wound for a moment. They settle into how you see yourself. If you are shouted at enough times with blame, you start to believe you are guilty. If you are shouted at with shame, you start to believe you are broken. The voice outside becomes the voice inside. Even years later, you may hear echoes of those shouts when you doubt yourself. You may flinch at your own mistakes. You may fear your own anger. The way out is to reclaim the voice that shapes you. To speak to yourself with gentleness. To rewrite the loud stories with quiet truths. A mind that knows its own worth will not let the echoes of old shouts define its new steps. The cry that crafts chains. Imagine hearing someone cry. Not just any cry, but a sound so raw, it pulls something deep from inside you. You feel the urge to move closer. You feel the need to fix it, to help, to soothe. It is natural to respond to pain with compassion. It is human to want to ease suffering. But what happens when that cry is not just an expression of sadness, but a tool? What happens when the tears are not simply falling, but carefully placed to weave invisible chains around you? The cry that crafts chains does not scream for help. It pulls you in softly. It tells a story of helplessness, of loneliness, of needing you in a way that feels irreplaceable. You start changing your plans. You start shrinking your dreams. You start carrying burdens that are not yours because every time you try to step away, the crying pulls you back. It is a silent agreement you never consciously made. You are responsible for their happiness. You are guilty if they suffer. You are a bad person if you walk away. But true compassion does not demand your sacrifice at the altar of someone else's endless sorrow. Love does not ask you to drown yourself to prove your loyalty. The chains crafted from cries are particularly dangerous because they are wrapped in emotions you value: empathy, kindness, responsibility. They make you question whether setting boundaries is cruel. They make you believe that saving yourself is betrayal. Over time, you become less of a person and more of a caretaker. Your needs fade into the background. Your dreams are postponed until later. Your identity becomes intertwined with their survival. But survival is not the same as living, and pity is not the same as love. If you find yourself trapped in cycles where someone else's sadness dictates your life, it is time to look deeper. It is not wrong to care. It is not wrong to love. But it is wrong to believe that your only value is in how much pain you can absorb from others. You deserve a life where your kindness is a gift, not a leash. You deserve relationships built on mutual strength, not endless rescue missions. Freedom begins the moment you recognize that saving someone does not mean losing yourself. The game that grooms surrender. Picture a game where you think you are winning. Every move feels right. Every decision feels yours. The rules seem clear at first. You play along, believing that if you just try hard enough, you will succeed. But slowly, almost without noticing, the rules begin to change. What once earned you praise now earns you silence. What once brought you closer now pushes you away. You adjust. You try harder. You give more. You bend yourself into shapes you barely recognize. And still, victory seems just out of reach. This is the game that grooms surrender. It teaches you that your efforts are never enough. It trains you to accept shifting standards as normal. It convinces you that if you just work a little harder, you will finally earn stability, love, respect. But the truth is, the game was never meant to be won. It was designed to exhaust you. It was built to grind down your will until surrender feels like the only relief. This kind of manipulation often hides behind charm. It wears the mask of opportunity. It promises rewards that shimmer just far enough away to keep you chasing. It praises you just enough to keep hope alive, but withholds just enough to keep you desperate. Over time, you forget who you were before you started playing. You forget that you once had dreams not tied to someone else's approval. You forget that your worth is not measured by how well you perform in a rigged system. The most dangerous part of the game is how it rewrites your instincts. You stop trusting your anger. You stop trusting your exhaustion. You see them not as warnings but as proof that you are still failing. Healing begins when you recognize that walking away is not giving up. It is reclaiming yourself. It is remembering that real love, real opportunity, real connection do not demand endless surrender. They invite growth. They invite joy. They invite peace. You do not have to play games where the only prize is your own destruction. The gesture that grafts guilt. Imagine someone reaching out to help you. A small gesture, a favor, an act of kindness. You accept, feeling grateful. You thank them. You move forward. But later, when you say no to something they ask, their face changes. Their voice softens but carries an edge. After everything I did for you, you hesitate. You second-guess yourself. You wonder if you owe them more. This is how the gesture that grafts guilt operates. It starts with something that seems pure. It starts with kindness. But instead of being a gift freely given, the kindness comes with invisible strings. The gesture is not truly about helping you. It is about securing a future debt you never agreed to owe. You are expected to repay it with loyalty, with compliance, with sacrifices you did not sign up for. If you resist, if you assert your own needs, you are made to feel selfish, ungrateful, cruel. The guilt is not shouted. It is woven quietly into your heart. It convinces you that standing up for yourself is a betrayal. It makes you believe that saying no is an act of war. Over time, you stop setting boundaries. You stop asking questions. You start agreeing to things that drain you because you are afraid of being seen as ungrateful. But real kindness does not require repayment. True generosity is not a contract hidden inside a smile. If someone offers you help and then uses it as leverage, it was never truly a gift. It was a tool. You are not a bad person for recognizing manipulation even when it is wrapped in politeness. You are allowed to receive help without chaining yourself to endless obligation. You are allowed to honor your gratitude without surrendering your freedom. The joke that jails truth. Picture someone telling a joke that touches a nerve. You laugh along because everyone else is laughing. You tell yourself it is not a big deal. You tell yourself you are being too sensitive. But deep inside, something small and important contracts. Something retreats. Jokes have power. They reveal what people think, but do not dare say openly. They signal what will be tolerated, what will be dismissed, what will be mocked. When jokes are used to jail truth, they become cages. They teach you that speaking honestly will make you the punchline. They teach you that your pain is funny. They teach you that your experiences are not serious enough to deserve real attention. Over time, you learn to silence yourself. You learn to edit your truth so it fits into the narrow spaces allowed by laughter. You start doubting whether your feelings are valid. You start wondering if maybe it really is just a joke, and you are the problem for feeling hurt. But real humor does not require the sacrifice of dignity. Real humor does not silence the voices of the vulnerable. The joke that jails truth is a weapon used to control who gets to speak and who must stay silent. If you find yourself laughing when you want to cry, if you find yourself shrinking after someone else's punchline, it is not because you are weak. It is because you have been trained to value belonging over truth. Healing begins when you give yourself permission to take your own feelings seriously. You do not have to laugh at your own expense. You do not have to stay silent to keep others comfortable. Your truth matters, even when others pretend it is just a joke. The touch that twists boundaries. Imagine someone reaching out to touch your arm in conversation. It seems casual, friendly. You smile politely, but inside, something feels off. You cannot explain it clearly. You wonder if you are imagining things. You wonder if you are overreacting. The touch that twists boundaries is not violent. It is subtle. It tests your limits without setting off alarms. It pushes just enough to see how much you will tolerate, and when you do not protest, when you freeze or laugh or minimize the discomfort, it pushes a little further next time. This kind of violation thrives on confusion. It relies on your politeness, your desire to avoid making a scene, your fear of being called dramatic. It counts on your silence. Over time, you begin to question your right to your own body. You start wondering if maybe your boundaries are unreasonable. You start shrinking from your own instincts. But no one else gets to decide where your comfort ends. No one else has the right to redraw your boundaries to suit their desires. If a touch makes you feel small, if a gesture makes you pull away inside, even as you smile outside, that feeling matters. It is your compass. It is your alarm. You do not owe anyone access to your body because they disguise their intentions behind friendliness. Your skin is not public property. Your discomfort is enough reason to say no. The compliment that coils doubt. Imagine someone telling you how amazing you are, how talented, how special. You feel a rush of warmth. You feel seen. But later, when you try to step into your own strength, when you express your own ideas, you sense a shift. The compliments fade. The warmth cools. You start wondering if maybe you were not as great as they said. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe you are not enough after all. The compliment that coils doubt does not uplift. It sets a trap. It inflates you just enough to make you dependent on their approval. It ties your sense of worth to their continued validation, and when that validation is withdrawn, you crumble. You doubt yourself. You hesitate. You shrink. Real compliments do not create dependency. They do not make you question your own voice. They do not evaporate when you stop being easy to control. If someone uses praise as a leash, if they make you feel small when you dare to stand on your own, it was never really about celebrating you. It was about taming you. You are not here to perform for applause. You are not here to earn love through obedience. Your worth is not a gift someone else gets to give or take away. The sigh that steals resolve. Picture working hard toward a goal. You are excited. You are proud. You share your plans with someone you trust, and they do not argue. They do not criticize. They just sigh. A long, heavy, disappointed sigh. No words. Just enough sound to drain the room of energy. Just enough silence to make you question yourself. The sigh that steals resolve is one of the quietest weapons. It does not shout or fight. It saps. It drains. It undermines your belief in yourself through the smallest signals. A look. A pause. A breath heavy with judgment. Over time, you learn to anticipate it. You start doubting your choices before you even make them. You start censoring your dreams to avoid that sound. But dreams require stubbornness. Goals require courage. Self-belief requires insulation from the opinions of those who are too afraid or too bitter to dream themselves. You are not foolish for wanting more. You are not reckless for reaching higher. And you are not selfish for refusing to let a sigh write the story of your life. Your dreams deserve more than quiet contempt disguised as concern. Your path deserves your loyalty, not your apology, the choice that chokes dreams. Picture standing before two doors. One leads to a path that excites you, terrifies you, and makes your heart race. The other leads to comfort, to safety, to the familiar. You hesitate. You know what you want. But then, the fear of losing, the fear of failing, whispers in your ear. You reach for the safer door. And without realizing it, you choke your own dream. This is how choice can become a trap. A choice made in fear does not feel like freedom. It feels like a chain, disguised as a decision. Dreams are delicate at their beginning. They are made of fire, but also of thread. When you make choices that are only about protecting yourself, not growing yourself, you begin to wrap that fire in layers of doubt and delay. It starts small. One opportunity passed by. One risk avoided. One difficult conversation never had. You tell yourself it is temporary. You tell yourself you are being wise. But dreams do not die all at once. They are suffocated slowly. Each choice you make matters. Each step either feeds your dream or starves it. The world will offer you thousands of ways to stay comfortable. It will rarely applaud you for choosing the harder way. It will nod when you choose the door that looks safer. It will smile when you settle. You must remember that the choice that chokes dreams rarely feels evil. It feels responsible. It feels rational. But deep inside you know the way out is brutal and beautiful. It is choosing discomfort over ease when your soul calls for it. It is stepping toward fear when your dream lives on the other side of it. A mind that guards its dreams with brave choices will grow wings where others build walls. The secret that seeds weakness. Imagine carrying a secret so tightly inside you that it changes how you stand, how you speak, how you breathe. No one else sees it, but you feel its weight with every step. Secrets are heavy things. But not all secrets are born equal. Some protect, some nourish. But some slowly seed weakness inside you without your knowing. A secret that seeds weakness is the one you keep because of shame. It is the truth you hide because you believe it makes you unworthy. It is the memory you bury because you fear it defines you. Keeping it hidden does not make it powerless. It makes it grow. It twists itself around your confidence. It feeds on your silence. It becomes a quiet judge inside your mind. You may find yourself avoiding certain paths, not because you cannot walk them, but because you are afraid the secret will be seen. You may reject love, success, peace, because part of you believes you do not deserve them. This is how weakness grows, not through failure, but through unspoken fear. The way out is hard but clean. It is to name your secret, at least to yourself. To hold it in your hands without judgment. To say, this happened, this is part of me, but it is not the whole of me. A mind that owns its whole story cannot be weakened by any chapter of it. The voice that vaccinates fear. Imagine hearing a voice in your childhood, calm and steady, saying, you can handle this. You are stronger than you think. Even when you failed, even when you cried, the voice did not mock you. It soothed you. It stood beside you. This voice becomes armor. The voice that vaccinates fear is not one that denies fear. It acknowledges it. It walks through it with you. When you have heard such a voice often enough, it lives inside you. Later, when fear rises like a storm, you find that you are not alone. That voice speaks again. Maybe quieter, maybe deeper, but it reminds you, you do not need to be fearless to move forward. You need only to not be ruled by fear. Many people carry voices inside them, but not all voices strengthen. Some voices criticize, some belittle, Some sharpen fear instead of softening it. The way to find freedom is to build your own internal voice. If life did not hand you one, speak to yourself as you would to a child learning to walk. Encourage, steady, remind. A mind armed with a voice of kindness can walk through fires that others fear to approach. The stare that strips armor. Imagine being in a room full of noise, full of movement, and then someone looks at you, really looks. Not at your clothes, not at your posture, but through you. Into you. It is disarming. It is raw. The stare that strips armor is rare, but it is unforgettable. It cuts through the masks we wear, the walls we build, the defenses we think protect us. When someone sees you without judgment, their gaze becomes a mirror. You cannot hide. You cannot perform. You are simply there. At first, it feels terrifying. You want to look away. You want to reassemble your shield. But if you stay, if you breathe through it, you may find something unexpected, relief. Because deep down, all the armor we carry is heavy. Being seen without it is a kind of freedom. A reminder that we are not only strong when we are defended, we are strong when we are true. The danger is that not every stare is kind. Some strip you to wound you. Some expose you to control you. You must learn to tell the difference. A mind that can be vulnerable without being naive will know when to stay and when to step away. The gift that gathers obedience. Picture someone offering you a hand up from a pit. You take it gladly. They lift you out. You thank them. But then they never stop hovering. They expect updates. They expect loyalty. They expect that your choices now reflect their investment in you. The gift that gathers obedience is generosity, used as leverage. It teaches you that you owe something more than gratitude. You owe your will. It sounds harsh, but in many relationships, this exchange happens so slowly you do not see it. Parents who remind children of all they sacrificed. Employers who expect devotion beyond professionalism. Friends who tally favors like debts. The problem is not the giving. It is the silent strings attached. You must learn to feel when a gift starts to tighten around your freedom. A true gift releases. It does not capture. A mind that loves freedom will learn to accept help without surrendering choice. The smile that softens defenses. Imagine facing someone you distrust, someone who has wronged you. You prepare your words, your shield, and then they smile. Not a wide smile, just a small one, gentle, human, and you feel your anger falter. This is the smile that softens defenses. A real smile can remind you of shared humanity. It can pull you out of anger and into understanding. But a manipulative smile can be used to disarm you before you are ready. You must learn to tell the difference. Trust your body. Notice if the smile makes you breathe easier or tense up deeper. Kindness should not confuse you. It should clarify. A mind that honors both heart and gut will not be easily fooled by surface gestures. The apology that asks for ownership. Picture someone apologizing to you. They say the words you waited to hear, but then they say, "I am sorry if you felt hurt. I am sorry but you misunderstood." And suddenly the apology feels wrong. The apology that asks for ownership does not truly seek forgiveness. It seeks control. It places the burden back onto you. It twists the hurt into your responsibility. Real apologies are simple. They say, "I did this. It was wrong. I am sorry." They do not defend. They do not rewrite. When you accept a false apology, you teach others that your pain can be negotiated. You must learn to recognize when you are being asked not to forgive, but to surrender your truth. A mind that knows its own pain will wait for real apologies or heal without them. The approval. that awakens addiction. Imagine getting a standing ovation the first time you speak publicly. The rush is overwhelming. You feel alive. You feel seen. But then, every time after, you chase that high. Approval is sweet. It lights up the brain like fire. But when approval becomes your fuel, you lose control of your path. You start choosing actions not because they are right, but because they are praised. You dance for claps. You bend for likes. You betray yourself for standing ovations. Approval addiction is subtle. It looks like success, but inside, it feels hollow. The way out is brutal honesty. You must ask yourself, would I do this if no one clapped? A mind that walks its path in silence will find its own applause in the beating of its heart. The memory that manufactures shame. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that shows not your reflection, but your worst mistake, over and over again. Picture how it feels to be trapped inside a moment you wish you could forget. Sometimes memories do not just linger, they reshape how you see yourself. What once was a simple mistake becomes a definition. What once was a lesson becomes a life sentence. This is how memory manufactures shame. It is not the event itself that chains you. It is the way you carry it forward. People around you can also play a part. A small comment, a lingering look. A reminder dropped like a seed that you let grow inside your mind. Over time, you start believing that you are not someone who made a mistake. You are someone who is a mistake. Shame thrives in silence. It festers when you bury it instead of exposing it to the light. It convinces you that you are unworthy of love unless you erase parts of yourself. But the truth is, mistakes are inevitable. Imperfection is inevitable. Growth only happens when you face the memory and refuse to let it own you. Shame wants you to believe you are alone. It wants you to believe that no one else has felt what you feel. But everyone carries bruises from the battles they lost inside themselves. If a memory keeps surfacing to tear you down instead of teaching you, it is not helping you heal. It is holding you hostage. Healing begins when you stop letting a single chapter define your whole story. You are more than what you regret. You are more than the worst things you have done or the hardest moments you have lived through. Freedom begins when you let the memory remain a part of you without letting it become all of you. The yes that yields control. Picture a moment when you say yes, even though your heart is whispering no. You say yes because it is easier. You say yes because you do not want to seem difficult. You say yes because somewhere deep inside you feel like your no would not matter anyway. Each yes feels small. Each yes feels harmless. But over time they build up like a wall you did not notice being constructed. A wall that boxes you into a life that does not feel like your own. The yes that yields control does not always come from pressure. Sometimes it comes from fear of disappointing. Sometimes it comes from a hope that giving a little will avoid a bigger fight. But the cost of these small yeses is not small at all. Every time you agree to something that betrays your values, every time you silence your real desires, every time you nod when you want to shake your head, you hand over a little more of your power. You train yourself to believe that your voice is negotiable. You teach yourself that peace at any price is better than standing in your own truth. But real peace does not come from endless surrender. It comes from alignment. It comes from building a life that fits you rather than shrinking yourself to fit the life others expect of you. Saying no does not make you cruel. Saying no does not make you selfish. Saying no is an act of self-respect. If you find yourself exhausted, resentful, disconnected from your own choices, it may be time to look at the yeses you have been giving. Your freedom does not depend on others allowing you to say no. It depends on you allowing yourself to say it and meaning it. The disagreement that deepens loyalty. Picture two people standing across from each other, voices raised, faces tense. It looks like a fight. It sounds like conflict. But something strange happens afterward. They are closer. Their bond feels stronger. They understand each other in a way they did not before. Sometimes disagreement does not divide. Sometimes it deepens loyalty. True loyalty is not built on constant agreement. It is built on the ability to survive friction. It is built on the courage to voice your truth even if it risks tension. When you disagree with someone and they listen instead of leaving, when you stand your ground and they do not punish you for it, you build something rare. You build trust that is not conditional. You build respect that is not fragile. Disagreement tests the strength of a relationship. If loyalty disappears the moment you challenge the other person, it was never loyalty. It was compliance. It was fear disguised as connection. Real loyalty is forged in the fire of honest conversation. It is strengthened by moments when you risk discomfort to protect truth. When someone can disagree with you and still choose you, they are showing you that their loyalty is not about control. It is about connection. It is about seeing the whole of you and choosing to stay. You do not have to fear disagreement. You do not have to believe that every conflict is the beginning of the end. Sometimes it is the beginning of a deeper, truer relationship. The applause that abandons freedom. Imagine standing on a stage, the roar of applause filling your ears. You feel powerful. You feel validated. You feel unstoppable. But as the applause dies down and the lights fade, you realize something unsettling. You are no longer sure where your real voice ends and where the expectations of the crowd begin. Applause feels like love, but it often comes with invisible demands. People clap for the parts of you they want to keep seeing. They reward the performance. They encourage the version of you that entertains, pleases, impresses. Over time, you start tailoring yourself to keep the applause coming. You edit your dreams. You smooth your rough edges. You silence your doubts. You become a version of yourself that fits the audience better than it fits your soul. The applause that abandons freedom does not feel like a prison at first. It feels like victory, but it traps you just the same. It teaches you to measure your worth by external reactions. It teaches you to fear change, because change risks losing approval. True freedom is the ability to be yourself even when no one is clapping. It is the courage to evolve, even when it confuses the people who once celebrated you. If you feel trapped by the need to please, if you feel disconnected from who you used to be, it may be time to step off the stage. You are allowed to outgrow the version of yourself that earned applause. You are allowed to change, even if it means losing an audience. The grin that grips identity. Picture someone smiling at you with approval every time you act a certain way. Their grin tells you that you are good when you are obedient, polite, agreeable. It tells you that you are lovable when you meet their expectations. It rewards you for shrinking, for smoothing your rough edges, for hiding your messiness. Over time, you start performing for that grin without even thinking about it. You start becoming a version of yourself that exists mostly in their eyes. The grin that grips identity does not need to use force. It uses affection as a leash. It teaches you to abandon parts of yourself to maintain connection. It convinces you that your value is conditional, that love must be earned through performance. But true love sees the whole person, not just the convenient parts. True love does not need you to erase yourself. If you feel like you are playing a role in your own life, if you feel drained by constantly managing how you are seen, it is not love holding you there. It is fear. It is conditioning. It is the internalized belief that you must trade authenticity for acceptance. Healing begins when you allow yourself to disappoint people who only love you when you perform. Healing begins when you choose connection over compliance. Your identity belongs to you, not to the ones who smile only when you fit their mold. The cry that cements compliance. Imagine someone breaking down in tears every time you assert yourself, every time you say no, every time you try to draw a line. Their sadness feels like a wave crashing over your courage. You hesitate. You reconsider. You bend. You comply. Because how can you be strong when they are so fragile? The cry that cements compliance is one of the most powerful emotional traps. It trains you to associate your strength with their suffering. It teaches you that setting boundaries is cruelty. It rewrites the script so that you are the villain simply for protecting yourself. Over time, you stop asserting your needs. You stop speaking your truth. You silence yourself to avoid causing pain. But real love does not require self-betrayal. Real compassion does not demand silence. If someone uses their pain to control your actions, it is not vulnerability. It is manipulation. It is a strategy to keep you small. You are not responsible for managing someone else's emotions at the cost of your own truth. You can care for others without surrendering yourself. You can be compassionate without being controlled. Strength is not cruelty. Speaking up is not violence. Protecting your peace is not selfish. The gesture that grinds rebellion. Picture a simple gesture, a pat on the back, a nod of approval, a small reward. Each time you show obedience instead of resistance, you are met with kindness. Each time you conform instead of question, you are celebrated. It feels good. It feels easy. You stop noticing how often you are giving up your own voice. The gesture that grinds rebellion does not come with threats. It comes with rewards. It trains you to associate compliance with safety and love. It makes rebellion feel lonely and dangerous. Over time, you internalize the belief that speaking up is foolish, that questioning is reckless, that fighting back is selfish. But rebellion is not always loud. Sometimes it is the quiet decision to think for yourself. Sometimes it is the small act of saying no when everyone else says yes. Sometimes it is the courage to live your own truth, even when it costs you approval. The gestures that reward conformity are seductive because they make life smoother in the short term. But over time, they erode your spirit. They grind away your sense of self. Freedom requires the willingness to endure discomfort. It requires the strength to choose authenticity over acceptance. Your rebellion is not a flaw. It is your soul remembering that you were never meant to be tamed. The secret that smothers instinct. Imagine a young bird learning to fly. It feels the natural pull of the wind beneath its wings. It trusts the invisible hands of the air. But one day, a voice whispers a warning. The voice says the sky is dangerous. The bird is clumsy. The bird might fall. And so the bird folds its wings and walks, instead of flying. This is what happens when a secret smothers instinct. Instinct is our original language. It speaks through the body, through sudden knowing, through silent certainty. But when a secret is kept inside, a heavy one, it begins to muffle that voice. It teaches you to second-guess what you once trusted. A secret kept out of shame, out of fear, out of self-hatred, weighs differently than one kept out of privacy or protection. It creates a fog between you and your inner compass. You might feel a pull to move in a certain direction, but doubt creeps in. You might sense danger in someone's smile, but convince yourself you are paranoid. You might hear the quiet yes of your soul, but shout over it with fear trained by the secret you carry. The longer you live like this, the more distant your instincts feel. You start to outsource decisions. You look for signs outside you instead of listening to the ones within. The way back is gentle but honest. You must face the secret. Let it breathe. Let it lose its poison. Let it become simply a part of your story, not the author of your future. A mind that reclaims its instinct becomes dangerous again, in the most beautiful way. It flies when others fear the sky. The plea that plants submission. Picture a child pleading for forgiveness after breaking a vase. Picture the trembling voice, the desperate eyes. Over time, imagine that child learning that the only way to survive is to beg before being punished. This is the plea that plants submission. Submission born from genuine humility is different. It is a choice. It is a strength. But submission born from survival trains the mind to fold before it even tries to stand. In relationships, in work, in society, sometimes we learn that the fastest way to safety is to plead, to lower ourselves so completely that we are no longer seen as threats. But living like this changes you. It teaches you to anticipate rejection even before it arrives. It teaches you to ask for permission for things you already have the right to take. You stop reaching fully. You stop speaking fully. You become half alive. The tragedy is that many people never notice when this submission takes root. It hides behind politeness, behind gratitude, behind patience. The way out is to feel the moment when your body shrinks without your consent. To notice when your spirit bows not out of respect, but out of fear. A mind that remembers its dignity will learn to stand again, even after years of kneeling. The blink that breaks confidence. Imagine giving a speech you worked hard on. In the middle of it, someone in the front row blinks. Not a regular blink, but a slow, disapproving one. You notice it. You stumble. You question everything. This is the blink that breaks confidence. Confidence is often fragile, not because it is fake, but because it is freshly born. It grows stronger each time it survives doubt. But when you are still building it, tiny signals from others can feel like wrecking balls. A glance, a blink, a sigh. Your mind, desperate for approval, interprets these small gestures as proof of failure. The danger is not the blink itself. It is the story you build around it. You weave an entire judgment out of a moment of silence. Over time, if you are not careful, you begin to live for the approval of the faces around you. You let their smallest gestures shape your biggest dreams. The way back is to root your confidence deeper than the surface, to build it on action, not reaction, to trust that your worth does not blink in and out based on someone else's passing thought. A mind that belongs to itself can survive 1,000 blinks without flinching, the reward that rots resolve. Imagine being on a diet, working hard every day. And after 1 week of success, you reward yourself with a feast that undoes it all. Imagine how the reward, meant to celebrate your discipline, actually dissolves it. This is the reward that rots resolve. Rewards are not bad. Celebration matters. But when rewards are used to escape the discipline that built them, they become traps. It happens in small ways. Promising yourself a day off that becomes a week. Giving yourself a treat that reignites old habits, declaring victory too early and forgetting the war is still going. Over time, rewards can reprogram your brain to associate hard work, not with the joy of growth, but with the escape from it. You begin to work, not for love of the work, but for the permission to stop. This weakens you. The way out is not to reject all rewards, it is to align them. Celebrate in ways that feed the same fire that got you moving. Make your rewards fuel, not exits. A mind that rewards itself with growth, not escape, will outlast those who only chase momentary pleasure. The friendship that fakes freedom. Imagine a friend who says they support you, but only when you stay within the lines they drew. Imagine feeling free when you agree, but punished when you diverge. This is the friendship that fakes freedom. True friendship loves your wildness. True friendship claps when you grow taller. Even if you grow away, fake freedom friendships are more about control than connection. They dress up their expectations with words like loyalty and care, but underneath, they are afraid of your change. You might feel guilty for wanting things they do not want. You might hesitate before speaking your new dreams aloud. The tragedy is that you may cling to the comfort of old friends, even when the friendship no longer fits your evolving soul. The way out is honesty. First with yourself, then with them. Ask yourself quietly, does this friendship expand me or contain me? A mind that honors its own freedom will mourn the loss of controlled friendships, but not regret them. The embrace that enforces obedience. Picture being held tightly. At first it feels safe, it feels warm, but then you realize you cannot move. The arms that comforted now constrain. This is the embrace that enforces obedience. In relationships, love can sometimes become a leash. Care can sometimes become a cage. You are expected to act a certain way to keep the love flowing. you are taught that affection is conditional. That safety comes at the price of compliance. At first, you submit willingly because it feels like connection. But over time, the cost grows. You lose pieces of yourself to keep the peace. The way out is to recognize when love demands too much. When being close means being smaller. A mind that believes it deserves unconditional love will walk away from embraces that suffocate. The threat that thickens trust. Imagine someone telling you, "Trust me or else." Imagine the threat hidden in the soft voice. This is the threat that thickens trust. True trust is given freely or not at all. It is built slowly, through action and honesty. But when someone demands trust by implying consequences for doubt, it is not trust they seek. It is submission. They want the appearance of loyalty without earning it. You might find yourself agreeing outwardly while inwardly withdrawing. You might call it trust, but it is fear wrapped in politeness. The way out is clarity. Trust should feel like a gift you give, not a ransom you pay. A mind that respects itself does not build bonds based on fear. The applause that alters truth. Imagine saying something you are unsure about. Imagine the crowd cheering wildly. Imagine how quickly you start to believe your own words, simply because they were clapped for. This is the applause that alters truth. We like to think we seek truth for its own sake, but often, approval clouds our sight. If enough people cheer, we start to call wrongness, right? We start to doubt our own doubts. The more applause you receive, the more careful you must become. Not because applause is bad, but because it is powerful. It can make you forget your compass. The way back is humility. To keep asking yourself, is this true, even if no one cheers? A mind that stays married to truth, not to praise, becomes untouchable. The bargain that buys souls. Imagine standing at a crossroads where two paths stretch out before you. One is rough, steep, and uncertain. The other is smooth, easy, and lined with promises of comfort. A figure appears offering you a deal. Take the easy road. Give up a little of yourself. Just a little. No one will notice. You think about it. You tell yourself it is not a big sacrifice. You tell yourself you can always reclaim what you give away later. So you agree. You shake hands. You walk the easy road. But every step you take, you feel lighter in a strange way, like parts of you are being left behind. At first, it is tolerable. A dream you set aside, a belief you soften, a value you blur. But, as time goes on, you realize you have traded away more than you ever meant to. The bargain that buys souls does not demand everything at once. It asks for small pieces over time. A little compromise here, a small silence there, a look the other way when something feels wrong. It teaches you that survival is easier if you just stop fighting. It rewards obedience with temporary comfort. But the cost is your essence. Your dreams grow dim, your convictions weaken. Your inner fire fades, and one day you realize you have built a life that no longer feels like yours. The road you chose so long ago has led you far from the person you once hoped to be. The bargain that buys souls does not come with a clear contract. It comes with small choices made in fear or fatigue. It comes with moments where you forget that ease is not the same as peace. If you feel hollow inside your own life, if you wonder where you lost yourself, it is never too late to turn around. It is never too late to gather the pieces you gave away. True peace is not found through easy bargains. It is found through living fully, even when the path is steep and uncertain. The smile that sharpens silence. Picture a conversation where you feel uneasy. You start to voice your concerns. You start to speak your truth. And then you see it. A smile. Small. Tight. Not warm but sharp. It freezes you. It makes you pause. It makes you question whether you should continue. The smile that sharpens silence is not about joy. It is about control. It signals that your words are unwelcome, that your truth is dangerous, that your discomfort must be hidden behind politeness. You are being told, without words, to stay small. You are being warned that honesty will cost you connection. Over time, you learn to read the smiles before you speak. You learn to measure your truth against the weight of potential rejection. You start editing yourself before anyone else has the chance to judge you. This kind of silence is not peaceful. It is heavy. It builds walls between you and the world. It isolates you inside your own mind. True connection does not require you to shrink. True intimacy does not punish honesty. If you feel silenced by a smile, it is not your job to make yourself smaller. It is not your job to protect others from your truth. Your voice matters. Even if it makes others uncomfortable, even if it shakes the ground they want to keep smooth, you deserve to speak without fear. You deserve to be heard without having to soften your pain to make it more palatable, the betrayal that builds worship. Imagine someone you admire more than anyone else, someone who seems wise, kind, strong. You trust them, you believe in them, and then one day they betray you, not by accident, but by choice. The betrayal cuts deep. It shatters your image of them. But strangely, instead of letting go, you find yourself clinging tighter. You make excuses. You tell yourself it was a mistake. You tell yourself you must have misunderstood. You raise them even higher in your mind to protect the parts of you that depended on their perfection. The betrayal that builds worship is a strange and painful trap. It exploits the parts of you that crave certainty. It uses your need for a hero to blind you to their flaws. Instead of questioning them, you question yourself. Instead of walking away, you dig deeper. You sacrifice more of your dignity to preserve the illusion. This kind of worship is not love. It is fear disguised as loyalty. It is desperation dressed as devotion. Real love allows room for imperfection. Real loyalty survives truth. If your admiration requires you to deny your own reality, it is not loyalty. It is captivity. You do not have to protect those who betray you. You do not have to worship those who wounded you. Healing begins when you allow yourself to see clearly, even when it hurts, even when it breaks the illusions you once needed to survive. The comfort that cages curiosity. Picture a warm room where everything is familiar. The smells, the sounds, the faces. It is comfortable. It is safe. You know what to expect. You know how to behave. Outside the room, the world is colder, wilder, full of questions you do not yet know how to answer, and so you stay. You stay because it is easier. You stay because it feels good. But over time, you start to feel restless. You start to feel small. The comfort that cages curiosity does not come with chains. It comes with rewards. It teaches you that safety is more important than discovery. It teaches you that asking questions is dangerous, that seeking more is betrayal. Curiosity demands risk. It demands vulnerability. It demands the courage to leave behind what is known in search of what is possible. When comfort becomes a cage, it steals your hunger for growth. It makes you trade expansion for predictability. It shrinks your world into something manageable but empty. If you feel restless inside your own life, it is not because you are ungrateful. It is because you were not made to live inside walls. You were made to stretch, to explore, to imagine. True comfort is the foundation from which you launch, not the prison that keeps you grounded. The flinch that forges bonds. Imagine reaching out your hand and seeing someone flinch away. Their reaction is small but sharp. It tells a story of pain, of fear, of past betrayals. You pause, you soften, you approach more gently. Over time, the very vulnerability of their flinch pulls you closer. You become protective, you become careful. You build a bond not out of shared strength but out of shared wounding. The flinch that forges bonds is powerful. It taps into your empathy. It makes you feel needed. It makes you feel chosen. But these bonds are fragile. They are built not on mutual empowerment, but on the unspoken agreement that you will tiptoe around their pain forever. True connection should not require you to walk on eggshells. True intimacy should not demand that you shrink yourself to avoid triggering old wounds. Compassion is beautiful, but it becomes corrosive when it traps you in a role you did not choose. If you find yourself shrinking to fit into someone else's broken spaces, if you find yourself carrying guilt for feelings that are not yours, it may be time to ask whether the bond is built on healing or on fear. The trust that twists truth. Picture giving someone your full trust, handing them the key to your mind, believing that they will honor it, protect it, defend it. But instead, slowly, subtly, they start rearranging the furniture inside. They suggest new memories. They question your instincts. They nudge your reality until you are no longer sure what is true. The trust that twists truth is one of the cruelest manipulations. It uses your own openness against you. It teaches you to doubt yourself, to surrender your inner compass. It makes you believe that love requires abandoning your own perception. True trust enhances clarity. It sharpens your sense of self. It does not fog it. If someone loves you only when you agree with their version of reality, it is not love. It is control. You are allowed to trust yourself more than you trust the ones who demand you rewrite your story to fit theirs. The joke that jams judgment. Picture someone making a joke about something serious, something that matters to you. You laugh along because you do not want to be the one who ruins the mood. You laugh even though something inside you twists. The joke that jams judgment is subtle. It teaches you that taking things seriously is a weakness. It trains you to doubt your own reactions. It mocks your instincts until you start suppressing them. Over time, you lose sight of what is actually important. You start tolerating what should not be tolerated. You start excusing what should not be excused. Humor is powerful. It can heal. It can connect. But it can also distort. It can also silence. If you find yourself laughing when you want to cry, it is time to listen to the part of you that knows better. Your judgment is not broken. Your seriousness is not a flaw. Trust your ability to know when something matters. The secret that sticks like blood. Picture being entrusted with a secret so heavy that it changes how you see the world. You did not ask for it. You did not seek it out. But now, it lives inside you. It colors your relationships. It weighs down your choices. The secret that sticks like blood is not just information. It is a burden. It ties you to someone else's guilt, someone else's shame, someone else's responsibility, and it demands your silence. It demands your complicity. Over time, you forget where their story ends and yours begins. You carry wounds that are not yours to heal. But secrets are not sacred just because they are hidden. You are not obligated to protect what poisons you. You are not required to bleed for someone else's mistakes. Your loyalty belongs first to your own truth, to your own peace, to your own freedom, the lie that loops forever. Picture telling yourself a small lie to survive a difficult moment. I am fine. It does not matter. I can handle it. At first it helps. It gets you through the day, but the lie grows. It loops. It becomes the background noise of your life. You tell it so often that you stop noticing it is there. The lie that loops forever is not a loud one. It is quiet. It is comforting. It feels safer than facing the raw truth. But it costs you your aliveness. It costs you your clarity. It costs you your connection to yourself. If you feel numb, if you feel lost, if you feel like you are living a life that does not quite fit, it might be because a lie is humming beneath everything. Healing begins when you dare to tell yourself the truth, even if it is painful, even if it breaks the surface of everything you thought you knew. Truth burns, but it also purifies. It also frees. The gift that guts gratitude. Imagine receiving a beautiful gift. It is wrapped carefully, offered with a smile. You feel a rush of gratitude, but later, you realize the gift was never meant to be given freely. It was meant to be a reminder. A silent ledger you now owe. This is the gift that guts gratitude. Gratitude is meant to be light. It is meant to be an acknowledgement, a blooming of joy in your chest. But when a gift is given with strings attached, it twists the gratitude into a burden. You start to measure yourself against the gift. You wonder if you have thanked enough, repaid enough, behaved well enough. It turns the clean feeling of thankfulness into a knot of quiet guilt. Over time, if enough of your gratitude comes from gifts with invisible debts, you stop trusting generosity. You second-guess kindness. You armor yourself against receiving, not because you are proud, but because you are afraid. The way back is not to stop being grateful. It is to see clearly. To separate clean giving from conditional giving. A true gift leaves your gratitude intact. It does not demand behavior. It does not change your freedom. A mind that honors true gratitude protects it fiercely, keeping it pure from the poisons of obligation, the shadow that shapes submission. Imagine walking down a bright street when suddenly a large shadow falls across your path. Even without seeing who it belongs to, you slow down. You hunch your shoulders. You feel smaller. This is the shadow that shapes submission. Not all submission comes from clear threats. Sometimes it comes from the mere presence of power, from the long memory of being punished for standing tall. You learn to shrink before being asked. You learn to say yes before a question is even spoken. Over time, the submission becomes automatic. You no longer remember when you started bowing. You only know it feels dangerous, not. The tragedy is that many never see the shadow for what it is. They think it is caution. They think it is wisdom. But it is fear. Planted long ago, now blooming in every decision. The way back is courage. Quiet, steady courage. To notice when you shrink without cause. To remember you have the right to your full height. A mind that sees its own worth will step back into the sun, leaving the shadow behind. The plea that plants panic. Imagine a voice begging you to stay, to help, to fix what you did not break. Imagine the desperation wrapping around your heart until it beats too fast. This is the plea that plants panic. When someone pleads from a place of true need, it awakens compassion. But when the plea is coated in manipulation, in guilt, in emotional drowning, it plants seeds of panic inside you. You feel responsible for their feelings. You feel trapped between your own boundaries and their need. Over time, if you answer too many such pleas, your body learns to associate other people's needs with your own failing. You start to panic, not just at their cries, but at the idea of ever disappointing anyone. It is a deep form of emotional control, usually invisible, often unintentional. The way out is understanding that you can care deeply without carrying someone else's survival. A mind that loves wisely knows when to extend a hand and when to protect its own heart. The laughter that latches guilt. Picture telling a secret hope to a friend only to have them laugh, not with you, but at you. Picture the laughter digging tiny hooks into your ribs. This is the laughter that latches guilt. When someone mocks something tender inside you, it teaches you that your dreams are silly, that your emotions are wrong. You begin to question not just your hope, but your right to feel it. Over time, guilt grows inside you, not for hurting others, but for daring to want more, to feel deeply. The laughter stays longer than the moment it was spoken. It echoes in your risks, in your loves, in your voice. The way back is fierce tenderness with yourself. To remember that not every laugh deserves your attention. To protect your sacred spaces from those who treat them like jokes. A mind that respects its own dreams becomes immune to shallow laughter. The blush that brands weakness. Imagine speaking up in a group and feeling your face burn. You blush. You see someone notice. They smile a certain way, and suddenly your courage feels like weakness. This is the blush, that brands weakness. Blushing is a natural response. It is human. But when others use it to label you, to shrink you, it can become a brand you carry. You start to believe that your sensitivity is a flaw, that your body betrays you by feeling too much. You may pull back from opportunities, not because you lack skill, but because you fear the heat rising in your cheeks. The way back is compassion. Deep compassion for your own body. Blushing does not mean weakness. It means you care. It means you are alive. A mind that embraces its own tenderness stands stronger than one that hides behind coldness. The regret that rewires identity. Imagine making a mistake, a real one. Imagine regretting it so deeply that you stop seeing it as an event and start seeing it as who you are. This is the regret that rewires identity. Mistakes are part of growth. Regret is part of wisdom. But when regret settles into your bones, it begins to rewrite how you see yourself. You are no longer someone who failed once. You are a failure. You stop reaching. You stop daring. Because you carry the story of your regret like a name. The way out is forgiveness. Not forgetting, not pretending. Forgiveness is saying, this was a chapter, not the whole book. A mind that forgives itself writes better stories. After every misstep, the silence that sculpts surrender. Picture trying to argue your innocence, but facing a wall of silence. No anger, no accusation, just a blank absence. This is the silence that sculpts surrender. Sometimes the absence of words wounds deeper than the presence of violence. You start to wonder if your voice matters, if your defense is worth offering. You begin to doubt your own reality. Over time, you surrender not because you believe you are wrong, but because you are tired of speaking into emptiness. The way out is to hear yourself, to trust that your voice has value even when others refuse to echo it. A mind that stands with its own truth cannot be sculpted into silence. The compliment that chains cravings. Imagine being praised for something once. You glow. You hunger for that glow again. So you repeat the action. Then again. Then again. Until you are no longer choosing actions because they are right, but because they are praised. This is the compliment that chains cravings. Compliments are beautiful when they affirm real worth. But when they become the only fuel, they create an addiction. You chase the praise instead of the purpose. Over time, your identity becomes tied not to your inner compass, but to the approval meter outside you. The way out is to enjoy praise without needing it. A mind that acts from its own joy does not hunger for validation. The glance that guts willpower. Picture standing firm on a decision. You are determined, but then someone you care about looks at you a certain way. A look of doubt, of disappointment. Your strength wavers. This is the glance that guts willpower. Willpower is not infinite. It can be strengthened, but also drained. When you lean too heavily on external approval, your willpower becomes porous, vulnerable to the winds of others' emotions. The glance does not force you. It invites your own doubt. The way back is solitude. Inner solitude, even in the presence of others. To hold your center firm, even when the faces around you frown. A mind that trusts its own decisions can walk through 1,000 doubting glances without losing its step. The yes that yanks freedom. Imagine standing at a doorway that leads to a life you have always wanted. A life full of choices, full of space, full of dreams that are yours alone. Now picture someone standing beside you, smiling, offering you something, a simple request, a small favor, a tiny yes. It sounds harmless, it sounds kind. You say yes without thinking much of it, but somehow that yes becomes a door closing behind you. The yes that yanks freedom is not always loud. It sneaks in dressed as cooperation. It wears the clothes of friendship, of love, of duty. Each yes seems so reasonable. Each yes seems so harmless. But slowly, you realize you are living according to someone else's plan. You realize you have traded your open sky for a tiny room you did not even choose. Freedom is not lost all at once. It is lost in small agreements, in quiet concessions, in little moments when you tell yourself, it is easier to go along than to stand up. If you find yourself living a life that feels too small, too tight, too scripted, look back at the yeses you gave without listening to your soul. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to protect your space. You are allowed to choose a life that answers to your dreams instead of someone else's expectations. Freedom begins when you realize that a single yes can build a cage and a single no can tear it down. The request that reverses loyalty. Picture someone you trust coming to you with a request. It sounds simple. It sounds harmless. But something about it feels wrong. Something about it feels like it crosses a line you never thought you would cross. Loyalty is a beautiful thing when it is rooted in respect and love. But loyalty can also become a weapon when it is twisted into obedience. The request that reverses loyalty is not a test of your care for them. It is a test of your care for yourself. It asks you to put their needs above your values. It asks you to betray what you know is right for the sake of maintaining peace. It asks you to close your eyes to what your heart knows. True loyalty does not demand you silence your conscience. True loyalty does not ask you to abandon your integrity. If someone only measures your loyalty by how much you are willing to sacrifice yourself, it is not love, it is control. You are not disloyal for refusing to betray your own soul. You are not unkind for standing firm in what you believe. Sometimes the bravest act of loyalty is not to others, but to the deepest truth inside yourself. The laugh that lingers like poison. Imagine sharing a dream with someone you trust. You speak it out loud, daring to believe it could be real, and then they laugh. Not a laugh of joy, not a laugh of celebration, a laugh that cuts. A laugh that dismisses. A laugh that tells you without words that you are foolish for even thinking you could have something more. That laugh stays with you. It echoes in your mind when you are alone. It colors how you see your dreams. It sows doubt where there was once hope. The laugh that lingers like poison is a silent destroyer. It does not argue. It does not fight. It simply plants a seed of shame that grows every time you hesitate. Every time you tell yourself you are not enough. Every time you shrink your dreams to fit into the smallness someone else chose for you. Your dreams deserve better. Your heart deserves better. You are not foolish for wanting more. You are not naive for believing in possibilities others are too afraid to chase. The laugh that lingers does not define you. It only reveals the limits of the person who could not see your vision. Do not let their fear shape your future. The habit that hides a hook. Picture a ritual you share with someone. Maybe it is a daily text. Maybe it is a coffee date. Maybe it is a favor you do without thinking. At first it feels warm. It feels natural. It feels like part of the fabric of your life. But slowly, almost invisibly, it becomes something else. It becomes an obligation. It becomes a measure of your loyalty. It becomes a way to keep you tethered. The habit that hides a hook does not feel like control at first. It feels like connection. But over time, it teaches you that your value lies in how well you perform the expected routines. It teaches you that stepping away is betrayal. It teaches you that your independence is dangerous. Real connection does not require ritual sacrifices. True bonds allow space for change, for growth, for freedom. If you feel trapped by traditions that once felt joyful, if you feel guilty for even imagining a life that is different, you are not wrong. Habits should serve you, not shackle you. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to let go. You are allowed to choose what feeds your spirit instead of what feeds someone else's need for control. The gift that grabs attention. Imagine receiving a gift so unexpected, so generous, that you feel overwhelmed. You feel seen. You feel special. But then, slowly, you notice something else. The gift comes with expectations. The gift comes with obligations. The gift comes with the silent demand for your time, your energy, your loyalty. The gift that grabs attention is not really about kindness. It is about control. It creates a debt you never asked for. It shifts the balance of power. It turns gratitude into obligation. True generosity frees. It lifts. It celebrates. It does not entangle. If someone gives you something and then uses it to control you, it was never truly a gift. It was a transaction disguised as love. You do not owe anyone your freedom in exchange for kindness. You do not have to sacrifice your autonomy to pay back favors that were never freely given. You are allowed to appreciate without becoming owned. You are allowed to be grateful without becoming trapped. The plea that pierces pride. Picture someone coming to you with desperation in their eyes. They need you. They beg you. They make you feel like you are the only one who can save them. It touches something deep inside you. Your pride in being strong. Your pride in being needed. Your pride in being capable. But slowly, you realize that this plea is not about partnership. It is about possession. The plea that pierces pride uses your best instincts against you. It makes you confuse being needed with being loved. It makes you mistake sacrifice for connection. True love does not ask you to bleed to prove your worth. True friendship does not require you to drown to keep someone else afloat. If someone only sees you as valuable when you are rescuing them, it is not love. It is dependence. You are allowed to help without being consumed. You are allowed to care without being captured. You are allowed to be strong without carrying the weight of someone else's choices. The praise that paints panic. Imagine being praised for something you barely understand. Being lifted high on a pedestal you did not ask to stand on. At first it feels good. It feels thrilling. But soon it feels terrifying. Because now you must live up to an image that is not real. Now you must perform to maintain the applause. The praise that paints panic creates a false self. It demands perfection. It demands performance. It demands that you bury your struggles, your doubts, your humanity. It turns love into a transaction, worth into a performance, identity into a costume. Real praise celebrates your wholeness, not just your highlights. It sees your strength and your weakness and loves you anyway. If you feel like you are suffocating under the weight of expectations you never agreed to carry, you are not alone. You are allowed to be a whole person. You are allowed to be seen without being sculpted. You are allowed to exist beyond the stage. The smile that severs sanity. Imagine someone smiling at you while denying your reality, while dismissing your pain, while twisting your words until you question your own memory. The smile that severs sanity is the most disorienting weapon. It makes you doubt your instincts. It makes you question your emotions. It makes you wonder if you are the problem for feeling hurt. True connection validates your reality. True love honors your perception. It does not gaslight you into confusion. If someone's smile feels like a trap, it probably is. If their kindness feels like a weapon, it probably is. You are not crazy for feeling what you feel. You are not broken for noticing what is wrong. Your sanity is not too fragile. It is sacred. Protect it. Trust it. Believe it, even when the smiles try to tell you otherwise. The question that quiets resistance. Imagine you are arguing with someone you love. Your voice rises. Your heart pounds. You are ready to defend your point with every ounce of energy you have. Then they ask you one question, a simple one, a quiet one. And suddenly, the fire inside you flickers and weakens. This is the question that quiets resistance. Not all questions are asked for answers. Some are designed to reshape the battlefield itself. Some questions are arrows aimed not at your mind, but at your will. A well-placed question can make you doubt whether your fight is worth fighting. It can make you hesitate long enough for the other person to take control. Over time, if you are exposed to enough of these questions, you may begin to lose your natural resistance. You might start surrendering, not because you are convinced, but because you are disoriented. The tragedy is that most people never realize when it happens. They think they are compromising. They think they are maturing. But sometimes they are simply being softened. The way back is awareness. To notice the feeling that follows certain questions. To ask yourself whether you are changing your mind or simply surrendering your energy. A mind that stays awake during conversations cannot be quieted by cleverness alone. It resists not out of stubbornness, but out of loyalty to its truth. The nod that nails weakness. Imagine standing at a crossroads, feeling torn between two choices. You hesitate, you look around. Someone you trust gives a small nod toward the easier path. Without thinking much, you step in that direction. This is the nod that nails weakness. It is not a violent shove. It is not an open command. It is a simple, silent signal that encourages you to abandon your higher strength for immediate comfort. Over time, if you live by the nods of others, your inner compass starts to rust. You stop fighting your own urges to shrink. You allow your weaker moments to decide your path. The nod nails down your lower instincts and buries your better ambitions. It is subtle. It is kind. It is deadly. The way out is to notice when you are choosing based on comfort given by another instead of conviction born within yourself. A mind that recognizes the difference between real guidance and enabling will save itself from slowly drifting away from greatness. The secret that stains self-worth. Picture carrying a secret about yourself. Not something noble, not something necessary, something you are ashamed of. Something you believe makes you unworthy. This is the secret that stains self-worth. It clings to you quietly. It colors how you see yourself. It makes you second-guess every praise, every love, every opportunity that comes your way. Because deep down you think, if they knew the real me, they would turn away. Self-worth becomes hollow when it is built on hiding. Over time, you may achieve great things but feel empty inside. Because the secret convinces you that you are only valuable as long as you are pretending. The way out is not brutal exposure. It is private honesty. To tell yourself the truth first. To say, yes, this is part of me, and it does not erase my value. A mind that owns every piece of its story shines brighter than any polished mask. The flattery that forges fences. Imagine someone praising you, lifting you up, making you feel special. But as the compliments pile up, you notice something strange. You are not encouraged to explore. You are encouraged to stay exactly where you are. This is the flattery that forges fences. Real praise opens doors. False praise locks you in. When someone flatters you only for what you already are, and never for what you could become, they are not loving you. They are taming you. You start to crave the safety of their approval. You stay small because the cage is made of gold. Over time, dreams that once roamed freely shrink inside the polite walls of admiration. The way out is to love compliments, but not depend on them. To take them as gentle winds, not chains. A mind that values growth over approval will tear down every golden fence in its path. The joke that jams integrity. Imagine sharing a serious goal with someone. Imagine them laughing it off, making a joke at your expense. Others laugh too. You smile awkwardly, but inside a small crack forms. This is the joke that jams integrity. When your deepest truths are mocked, even lightly, it can create a hesitation inside you. You may start to downplay your dreams. You may start to laugh along, even when your heart feels wounded. Over time, you disconnect from your own seriousness. You lose the fire of your convictions. Integrity depends on honoring your inner promises. even when others find them amusing. The way out is courage. To defend your seriousness. To protect your dreams even from friendly fire. A mind that refuses to apologize for its intensity will keep its soul intact. The touch that tears boundaries. Imagine someone placing a hand on your shoulder just a moment too long. Imagine feeling the discomfort, but saying nothing because it seems small. This is the touch that tears boundaries. Not all violations are dramatic. Some are tiny rips, small enough to ignore, but deep enough to leave scars. Each time your boundary is crossed and you stay silent, it weakens. You teach yourself that your discomfort is less important than the peace of the moment. Over time, your sense of self becomes blurred. You forget where you end and others begin. The way back is to honor the first whisper of no. To protect your space, even when the world calls you overreactive. A mind that fiercely guards its borders will remain whole, even in the midst of gentle invasions. The story that seeds dependence. Picture someone telling you a story about yourself. Maybe they say you are helpless. Maybe they say you are fragile. Maybe they say you cannot survive without them. This is the story that seeds dependence. At first it feels like care. It feels like protection. But slowly it rewrites your identity. You begin to believe you need them, that you cannot trust your own strength. Over time, you lose the muscle of independence. You shrink into the role they wrote for you. The way back is to tell your own story, to remember your own victories, to reclaim your own power. A mind that believes in its own resilience will outgrow every cage it was ever placed inside. The handshake that holds hostages. Imagine sealing a deal with a handshake, smiling, feeling the warmth of agreement. But later, you realize the terms were not fair. That handshake now holds you hostage to an unspoken expectation. This is the handshake that holds hostages. Not all agreements are honest. Sometimes they are social traps, disguised as mutual respect. When you give your word too easily, or trust too quickly, you may find yourself bound by promises you never fully understood. Over time, fear of breaking these silent contracts can paralyze you. You stay longer in jobs, relationships, situations where you no longer belong. The way out is clear boundaries before commitment. Courage to renegotiate when the terms become chains. A mind that values its freedom over its politeness will not be trapped by a handshake. The cry that closes choices. Picture someone crying in front of you just as you are about to make a hard decision. Their tears pull at your heart. Suddenly you feel trapped. You choose differently, not because it is right, but because you cannot bear their sadness. This is the cry that closes choices. Empathy is beautiful. Compassion is powerful. But when others use their emotions to steer your decisions, your freedom shrinks. You begin to associate their pain with your responsibility. Over time, you stop making choices based on truth. You make them based on avoidance of guilt. The way back is to separate compassion from obligation. To help without surrendering your own compass. A mind that sees love and truth as partners, not enemies, will choose wisely even through a storm of tears. The guilt that grips dreams. Imagine dreaming of something wild and beautiful. Imagine stepping toward it. Then imagine guilt whispering in your ear. Should you be so selfish? Should you leave others behind? Should you dare? This is the guilt that grips dreams. Dreams often threaten the balance others are used to. Your growth challenges their comfort, and so guilt is planted. A soft seed that says you are wrong for wanting more. Over time, guilt can become so loud that it drowns out the song of your dreams entirely. The way back is radical permission. Permission to want, permission to rise, permission to live. A mind that loves itself enough to follow its dreams will inspire others to confront their own fears, even if they resent you first. The praise that perverts power. Imagine standing in a room where every word spoken about you is praise. They tell you that you are brilliant, that you are extraordinary, that you are beyond others. At first it feels like sunlight pouring over you. You glow under it. You start to believe it. But slowly something else starts to happen. The praise does not lift you. It isolates you. It separates you from others. It creates an invisible pedestal that you must now live upon. The praise that perverts power is not about celebrating your true self. It is about building a throne that becomes a cage. It turns you into a symbol instead of a human being. It demands that you maintain an image rather than live your truth. Every time you doubt, every time you question, every time you falter, you feel the weight of those expectations tightening around you. True praise should empower you to be more of yourself, not less. It should remind you of your strength without making you fear your own vulnerability. If the compliments you receive make you afraid to show weakness, if they pressure you to pretend you are more perfect than you feel, then the praise is not pure. It is a trap dressed in gold. You are allowed to be celebrated for your real self, not for the mask others build around you. Power is not found in living up to an illusion. It is found in breaking free from it. The silence that suffocates spirit. Picture walking into a room where no one speaks but everyone watches. You open your mouth to share something that matters to you but are met with silence. Not the silence of deep listening, but the silence of judgment, of indifference, of rejection without words. That silence seeps into your skin. It wraps around your spirit and tightens like a rope. The silence that suffocates spirit is one of the most invisible weapons. It does not lash out. It does not scream. It simply refuses to acknowledge your existence, your truth, your voice. It teaches you that speaking up is pointless. It trains you to mute yourself to survive. But silence can be broken. The spirit can be revived. You do not have to stay small because others refuse to see you. You do not have to silence your own soul to avoid their discomfort. Your words matter even if they are met with empty stares. Your truth matters even if it echoes in lonely rooms. Speaking is not about who listens. It is about refusing to vanish. It is about refusing to betray yourself. Your spirit was not made to be muted. It was made to be heard. The gift that gouges trust. Imagine receiving a gift so perfectly timed, so perfectly chosen, that it feels like destiny. You feel seen. You feel valued. You let your walls come down. But later, when the giver demands something from you, you realize the gift was not free. It was bait. It was a key to your guarded places. The gift that gouges trust does not announce itself as a weapon. It comes wrapped in kindness. It comes draped in generosity. But it carves deep into your sense of safety. It teaches you that kindness is dangerous, that generosity is a trick, that love is a transaction. True gifts are given without expectation. True kindness asks for nothing in return. If someone uses a gift to guilt you, to control you, to manipulate you, it is not generosity. It is a chain. You are not ungrateful for seeing through it. You are not cruel for protecting yourself. Trust should be built on sincerity, not on bargains disguised as blessings. You are allowed to receive without being owned. You are allowed to protect your trust like the treasure it is. The agreement that anesthetizes doubt. Picture sitting at a table where everyone is nodding, smiling, agreeing. You feel a twinge of uncertainty. Something does not sit right. But the warmth of their acceptance is comforting. You tell yourself it is better to go along. You tell yourself you must be overthinking. The agreement that anesthetizes doubt is a slow, soothing trap. It rewards your silence with belonging. It rewards your compliance with comfort. But it costs you your instincts. It costs you your critical mind. It teaches you that questioning is dangerous and that peace is found in obedience. Over time, you stop noticing when things feel wrong. You stop asking questions. You stop trusting the whisper of unease inside you. True agreement does not demand the death of doubt. True harmony allows for dissent, for questions, for discomfort. If the only way to belong is to silence your intuition, then you are not in a community. You are in a cage. You are allowed to doubt. You are allowed to question. You are allowed to stand apart, even when it would be easier to blend in. Your mind is not meant to be anesthetized. It is meant to awaken. The attention that abuses willpower. Picture someone who makes you feel like you are the center of their world. Their eyes light up when you enter the room. Their words make you feel irreplaceable. Their attention feels like sunlight after a long winter. But slowly you notice something else. Their attention comes with demands, with expectations, with subtle punishments when you fall short. You start to live for their approval. You start to tailor your actions to keep their gaze. You start to lose yourself in the effort to maintain their admiration. The attention that abuses willpower is not obvious at first. It feels flattering. It feels intoxicating. But it rewires your motivations. It teaches you to perform for survival. It teaches you to betray your own needs to maintain connection. True attention sees you without seeking to control you. True admiration supports your freedom, not your submission. If you find yourself exhausted by the effort to keep someone interested, if you feel like you are losing pieces of yourself in the chase for their approval, it is not love. It is a cage. You do not have to perform to be worthy. You do not have to exhaust yourself to be seen. Your willpower belongs to you, not to the ones who would drain it for their own comfort, the comfort that corrupts courage. Imagine sitting by a warm fire on a cold night. Outside the storm rages. Inside you are safe, wrapped in blankets, surrounded by quiet. Every part of you wants to stay. Every part of you dreads stepping back into the cold. This is the comfort that corrupts courage. Comfort in itself is not the enemy. Safety, peace, ease are all gifts that allow the soul to rest. But when comfort becomes a reason to stop moving, it becomes a silent thief. Courage is not needed when the path is soft. Courage is born when the world demands it, when uncertainty rises, when the future is not promised. When you stay too long in comfort, you begin to fear the very thing that once thrilled you. Adventure, risk, growth. You tell yourself stories, that you have earned your rest, that it is wise to stay put, that only foolish people step into storms, but deep inside, a small voice knows. It knows that the fire is lovely, but you are not made to sit by it forever. You are made to walk through wildness. Over time, corrupted courage does not vanish dramatically. It withers quietly. It disguises itself as caution, as responsibility, as reason. You stop asking yourself what you are capable of. You start asking yourself what you can avoid. The way back is a slow rekindling, not a reckless leap into chaos, but a gentle reminding of your strength. Small risks taken daily, small discomforts embraced willingly. A mind that honors its courage over its craving for ease will find itself building fires in places others fear to tread. The gesture that gags grit. Imagine reaching the final mile of a long journey, your body aching, your spirit stretched thin. Then someone steps forward, smiles kindly, and says, "You have done enough. You can stop now." This is the gesture that gags grit. Sometimes kindness kills determination more effectively than cruelty ever could. Grit is the stubborn refusal to give up when everything in you screams to stop. It is the invisible muscle that carries dreams across broken ground, but when others offer you an easy way out, when they applaud your effort without demanding your finish, it becomes tempting to accept. It feels validating. It feels loving. But it can rob you of the final strength hidden in the last few steps. Over time, if you accept too many of these gestures, you start to train yourself to quit when praised instead of when finished. You begin to believe that effort is enough, that trying hard is the same as completing, but true grit knows the difference. The way back is gratitude for the kindness, but loyalty to the mission. To smile at those who offer you rest, but to walk on if the road still calls. A mind that respects its own hunger for completion will reach heights others only dream about. The flattery that funnels fear. Imagine someone telling you that you are perfect just as you are. Imagine hearing it again and again until the idea of changing, of risking failure, feels almost like betrayal. This is the flattery that funnels fear. True flattery should inspire growth. It should encourage evolution. But when flattery becomes a bubble, it can trap you inside yourself. You start to fear anything that might tarnish the image others have built around you. You avoid hard challenges because you are afraid to prove them wrong. You avoid new beginnings because you are afraid to lose the praise you have earned. Over time, the prison walls are built not by your enemies but by your admirers. And you are the one who locks the door. The tragedy is that the very love that should have lifted you begins to suffocate you. The way out is painful but freeing. You must allow yourself to disappoint others sometimes. You must be willing to look foolish, to fail publicly, to grow beyond the comfort of applause. A mind that values transformation over admiration will never be trapped by its own image. The joke that juggles judgment. Imagine sharing a vulnerability with someone, a small truth about yourself. They laugh. They say they are joking. But inside, you feel the sting of judgment hidden within the humor. This is the joke that juggles judgment. Not all jokes are harmless. Some are weapons disguised as wit. When someone uses humor to expose your fears, to mock your dreams, to belittle your wounds, they are not simply being funny. They are sending a message. The message says, "You are not safe here. Your truth is not sacred. Your struggle is entertainment." Over time, if you are exposed to enough of these jokes, you learn to armor your heart. You share less. You hide more. You perform safety instead of living it. The tragedy is that some of the deepest wounds come not from direct attacks, but from laughing knives. The way out is fierce boundary setting. To let laughter exist, but not at the expense of your soul. A mind that refuses to juggle its worth for someone else's amusement will find deeper connections, truer friends, and quieter, but more powerful forms of joy. The nod that nails the mind shut. Imagine sitting in a quiet room where an important decision is being discussed. You feel a flicker of hesitation, a question rising in your mind. You are about to speak when you notice it. A simple nod from someone across the table. A nod that says everything is fine. A nod that says questioning is not necessary. A nod that tells you without words to fall back in line. You hesitate. You swallow your doubt. You nod back. And just like that, your mind closes itself. The nod that nails the mind shut is one of the quietest but most powerful traps. It does not come with shouting or threats. It comes with silent agreements. It comes with the subtle expectation that you should conform without thinking. Over time, you stop questioning not because you have no questions, but because you have been trained to see questioning as dangerous. You start to believe that smoothness is better than truth, that agreement is better than understanding, that fitting in is better than thinking deeply. But your mind was not designed to stay locked. It was built to explore, to wonder, to challenge. True growth does not happen when everyone silently agrees. True understanding does not emerge from a sea of nods. It rises from the discomfort of asking better questions, from the bravery of standing in uncertainty. If you find yourself nodding even when your soul is screaming, if you feel yourself retreating from your own curiosity to avoid standing out, it is time to listen to the unrest inside you. It is time to recognize that silent agreement is not always wisdom. Sometimes it is fear, sometimes it is habit, Sometimes it is the weight of invisible chains pressing down on your mind. Freedom begins when you catch yourself mid-nod and ask yourself if you truly believe what you are about to agree to. Freedom begins when you refuse to shut the door on your own doubts because someone else finds comfort in pretending everything is fine. You are not here to move through life with a nailed-shut mind. You are here to think, to challenge, to awaken, to stay alive to the mystery and the beauty and the complexity of it all. Every time you choose curiosity over compliance, every time you choose exploration over easy agreement, you pry open another board nailed across your mind, and you remember that thinking for yourself is not rebellion. It is survival. It is freedom. It is life, the memory that mutes strength. Imagine standing on a stage, about to speak to a room full of people. You have prepared. You have the knowledge. You feel the rightness of your message burning inside you. But just before you open your mouth, a memory flashes. A memory of the last time you spoke and were laughed at. A memory of failure, of shame. And in that moment your voice falters. Your power shrinks. This is the memory that mutes strength. Strength is not just built by victories. It is built by how you remember your failures. It is built by the meaning you give to the moments you fell. When a painful memory remains unhealed, it acts like a hand on your throat. It squeezes your courage, without you even realizing it. You might tell yourself you have moved on. You might tell yourself it does not matter anymore. But the body remembers. The mind remembers. And when the moment comes to rise again, that memory reappears like a silent chain around your spirit. You find yourself hesitating where you should be leaping. You find yourself whispering where you should be roaring. You find yourself questioning your worth at the very moment you need it most. Over time, if enough memories like this pile up, your strength becomes a memory too. Something you know you once had but cannot seem to find when you need it. The tragedy is not that the memory exists. It is that it is allowed to define you. A failure is a fact. But the story you tell about it becomes your future. When you treat every past mistake as a permanent judgment, you silence parts of yourself that were meant to sing loudly in this world. The way back is not to erase the memory. It is to rewrite its meaning, to look back at the moment you stumbled and say, that was a lesson, not a sentence. That was a moment, not a prophecy. That was a fall, not a death. You must teach your mind to see strength in the fact that you survived. Every scar can be a symbol of weakness or a badge of endurance, depending on how you choose to see it. Strength, muted by memory, can be awakened again. It starts with facing the memory fully. Sit with it. Remember the fear, the shame, the sharp edges, and then go deeper. Remember what you learned. Remember how you got back up. Remember that no single moment defines the total of who you are. You are not only the voice that faltered, you are the courage that returned to speak again. You are not only the dream that failed, you are the spirit that dared to dream it all. You are not only the person who was laughed at, you are the soul that still burns with truth. Despite it, when you claim your entire story, even the ugly parts, you remove the memory's power to silence you. You begin to see that strength is not about never falling. It is about refusing to stay muted by what has already passed. A mind that forgives itself for the clumsy beginnings will roar louder with each new attempt. Strength is not lost. It is waiting. It is waiting behind the door of the memory you fear to open. It is waiting in the bones that have carried you through storms you thought would break you. It is waiting in the breath you take when you decide to try again, despite the old voices whispering doubt. You were never weak because you fell. You were only unfinished. And the memory that once muted you can become the anthem that drives you forward if you let it. Every time you feel the old shame creeping in, remember this. You are here. You are breathing. You are moving. The past happened. It does not own you. The strength you need is not somewhere far away. It is curled quietly inside you, waiting for your permission to rise. Do not mute yourself because of old echoes. Do not shrink because of faded fears. Stand, speak, move, not because you are unafraid, but because your spirit is louder than your memories. The strength you seek is already yours. It has been with you all along. It only needs to be unmuted. The compliment that cancels confidence. Imagine standing in front of a room full of people. You've just shared something close to your heart, an idea, a piece of your work, a part of yourself you nurtured quietly in the shadows. At first, there is a hush, a long silence that stretches thin and sharp, and then the compliments come. They flood toward you like a warm wave, words full of admiration, praise that sparkles and dazzles. You feel seen, you feel valued, you feel lifted. For a moment, it feels like everything you ever wanted. Recognition, approval, celebration. But somewhere beneath the surface of all that light, something subtle starts to shift. Something you almost cannot detect at first. The compliments wrap around you tighter and tighter until they do not feel like appreciation anymore. They feel like expectation. They feel like a mold being placed over you, one you are now expected to fill again and again. The more they praise you, the less you feel like you can show up imperfectly. The more they admire you, the more you feel trapped inside the image they have created. You begin to notice that when you falter, when you show your human side, when you bring forward something less polished, the compliments disappear. The warmth fades. The smiles stiffen. Without anyone saying it directly, you receive a new message. You are valuable only when you are exceptional. You are worthy only when you exceed expectations. You are lovable only when you perform. What started as encouragement now feels like a cage. A beautiful, golden cage, but a cage all the same. Slowly, almost without noticing, you stop taking risks. You stop experimenting. You stop daring to be seen in your rawness. You tell yourself you are just being careful. You tell yourself you are just being smart. But deep down, you know the truth. You are afraid. Afraid to lose the approval you worked so hard to earn. Afraid to reveal that underneath the polished surface, you are still figuring it out. Still stumbling. Still human. The compliment that cancels confidence is a strange and subtle trap because it wears the face of love. It does not attack. It does not criticize. It praises you so much that it builds an impossible standard you are now terrified to fall beneath. Confidence is not built through endless admiration. Confidence is built through the freedom to fail and still be worthy. It is built through knowing that your value does not evaporate when you stumble, that your mistakes do not cancel your worth. But when compliments become conditional, when they are given only when you meet certain invisible standards, they start to teach you the opposite. They teach you that your real self, the messy self, the uncertain self, is something to hide. They teach you that your imperfections are dangerous because they might cost you the love you have been given. And so, you start to curate yourself. You start to show only the parts that are likely to win applause. You start to live for the reaction rather than for the truth. Over time, you lose touch with the spark that first made you unique. You lose touch with the inner compass that once guided you bravely into the unknown. You become less yourself and more a reflection of what others want from you. Every decision becomes a calculation. Every risk becomes a threat. Every stumble feels like a failure, not just of skill, but of self. And with each cautious step, your confidence withers a little more. It is not that you stop doing great things. It is that you stop doing them freely. You stop doing them from a place of joy. You stop doing them because they feel true. Instead, you do them because you must. Because you are afraid of what will happen if you do not. That fear becomes the silent engine that drives you. And fear, no matter how well disguised, no matter how quietly it hums beneath the surface, is no foundation for confidence. True confidence does not come from endless validation. True confidence is built in the moments when you are messy and uncertain and still worthy. When you are brave enough to be seen in your fullness, not just your excellence. When you are loved not because you meet an impossible standard, but because you are gloriously, imperfectly real. When compliments become cages, the path back to confidence begins not with seeking more praise, but with learning to praise yourself in the moments when no one else is clapping. It begins with honoring your own journey, even when it looks nothing like perfection. It begins with giving yourself permission to be seen in your process, not just your product. Picture yourself standing alone after the applause has faded. The room is empty now. The lights have dimmed, and what remains is not the praise that once filled the air, but the pressure that still weighs heavily on your shoulders. You replay the compliments in your mind, searching for the parts that felt genuine, searching for the parts that felt like love instead of expectation. And you begin to realize something. The words that once lifted you now feel like obligations stitched into your skin. You are not being celebrated for simply existing. You are being celebrated for performing. And with every performance, the invisible stakes rise higher. You tell yourself that you should be grateful, that others would kill for this kind of admiration, that you are lucky to be seen at all. But deep inside, a different voice whispers a different truth. Confidence does not grow in soil where love is conditional. Confidence shrinks when it is tied to performance rather than presence. You are not just afraid of failure now. You are afraid of being ordinary. You are afraid that if you are not exceptional, you will be invisible. You will be forgotten. You will be unloved. So you work harder. You polish yourself even more. You practice smiling in ways that hide your exhaustion. You rehearse your words so they land perfectly. You hide the parts of you that are unsure, messy, complicated. But with every step away from your true self, you feel a little more hollow inside. A little more disconnected from the spark that once made your dreams burn bright. The compliment that cancels confidence does not silence you all at once. It erodes you slowly. It teaches you that approval is survival. It teaches you that applause is proof of worth. And once you start living for applause, you stop living for yourself. You stop asking what you truly want. You stop listening to the voice inside that once spoke clearly. Instead, you tune yourself to the frequency of others, their smiles, their praise, their approval. And in doing so, you lose the sound of your own soul. There is a heavy loneliness that grows inside a life built on conditional love. It is the loneliness of being admired for what you do rather than for who you are. It is the loneliness of realizing that no one really knows the real you, because you have been hiding that person away for so long. Confidence withers not because you are weak, but because you have been feeding it on a diet of borrowed approval instead of self-trust. True confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to move forward even when fear whispers in your ear. It is the knowledge that you are worthy even when you fail, even when you fall short, even when you are not extraordinary. It is the understanding that your value was never meant to be weighed by others, that it was always yours to claim. But reclaiming it requires a painful kind of honesty. It requires looking at the places where you have allowed compliments to become cages. It requires admitting that the approval you chased has cost you pieces of yourself. It requires grieving the parts of you that you abandoned to stay lovable in the eyes of others. Healing begins when you dare to show up unpolished, when you share your work not for applause, but because it matters to you. When you speak your truth even if it trembles on your lips. When you risk being ordinary because you finally understand that you were never here to perform. You were here to live, to feel, to explore, to create, not for applause, but for the sheer beauty of being alive. Rebuilding confidence after it has been eroded by conditional praise is not about rejecting compliments altogether. It is about learning to receive them without letting them define you. It is about hearing them as reflections, not requirements. It is about honoring your own journey enough to know that your worth does not rise and fall with every opinion cast upon you. Confidence returns slowly at first, in small moments, in quiet victories. In silent promises you keep to yourself. It returns when you create for the joy of creating, when you love for the joy of loving, when you live for the joy of living. Not for applause, not for approval, but for the deep, steady hum of your own soul singing back to you, reminding you that you are enough. Always have been, always will be. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the person you have been trying to be is not who you truly are. You feel the heaviness of all the expectations you have been carrying, expectations built one compliment at a time, each one pressing a little more weight onto your shoulders. You move through the world carefully, adjusting your words, adjusting your actions, constantly trying to fit the image that others seem to love. But inside, there is a growing tension, a growing silence where your real voice used to live. This silence is not peace, it is suppression. It is the slow erosion of your true self beneath the surface of the persona you have built. You tell yourself you should be happy. After all, you have what you thought you wanted. You are admired. You are respected. You are praised. But admiration without understanding feels empty. Respect without freedom feels heavy. Praise without authenticity feels like a mask you are trapped behind. The compliment that cancels confidence is not always loud. It is a soft whisper that grows louder over time. A voice that says, "Stay like this. Do not change. Do not reveal the messy parts, the unsure parts, the growing parts." It teaches you to fear your own evolution, to fear the natural changes that come with learning and living and becoming. True confidence does not come from being perfect. It comes from embracing growth, from knowing that you can be both brilliant and unfinished, that you can be both strong and still learning, that you can be both loved and flawed. When compliments turn into cages, they freeze you in time. They trap you inside an outdated version of yourself, a version that no longer fits but feels too risky to outgrow. You start to measure your worth by how well you can maintain the illusion. You start to believe that love is conditional upon your ability to stay exactly as you were when the compliments first arrived. But love that demands stagnation is not love. It is fear wearing the mask of affection. Confidence begins to crumble when you live in fear of disappointing the image others have of you. It withers when you prioritize their comfort over your own growth. It fades when you allow yourself to become a statue instead of a living, breathing, evolving soul. There is a deep loneliness that comes from being celebrated for a version of yourself that no longer exists. A loneliness that whispers to you in the quiet moments. A loneliness that asks, who would stay if they saw all of me? Who would love the parts of me that are still messy, still searching, still unfinished? Healing begins when you dare to believe that you are worthy even in your becoming, that you do not have to stay frozen to stay loved, that the right people will celebrate your evolution, not mourn the loss of a version of you that was never meant to last forever. Confidence grows when you start living for your own approval, not just the applause of others. It grows when you trust yourself enough to risk being seen in your imperfection. It grows when you remember that the most beautiful parts of life are not the polished ones, but the raw, the real, the vulnerable. Imagine creating not because you know it will be admired, but because it feels true. Imagine speaking not because you are sure everyone will agree, but because your voice deserves to be heard. Imagine living not because it fits an image, but because it feels like freedom. This is where confidence is rebuilt. Not in the perfection others demand, but in the authenticity you reclaim. The compliment that cancels confidence loses its power the moment you stop needing it, the moment you choose to define your own worth, the moment you realize that no external praise can match the peace of being true to yourself. Growth will always feel dangerous to those who loved the earlier version of you. Change will always feel threatening to those who benefited from your smallness. But you are not here to stay the same. You are not here to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. You are here to become, to stretch, to evolve, to unfold layer by layer into the fullest expression of who you are meant to be, and that journey will not always be applauded. Sometimes it will be misunderstood. Sometimes it will be met with silence. Sometimes it will be met with fear, but it will always be worth it. Because in that journey, you find something better than applause. You find yourself. You find the kind of confidence that cannot be cancelled because it was never built by someone else's hands. It was built by your own. In the quiet, in the messy, in the real. Picture yourself walking into a familiar place. A place where you were once praised, once celebrated. The walls still remember your laughter, your brightness. The people still smile when they see you. But now you feel different. You are not the same person you once were. You have changed, grown. Maybe you have discovered parts of yourself you had hidden. Maybe you have dared to chase dreams that do not fit the image they had of you. And now, standing here, you feel the silent weight of expectation pressing against you once more. You know what they want. They want the version of you that made them comfortable, the version of you that never asked hard questions, the version of you that never disrupted the smooth surface of their admiration. You smile, you nod, but deep inside, you feel the divide. You feel the quiet grief of realizing that the love you once thought was unconditional was actually dependent on your ability to play a role. This is the deeper wound that compliments can leave when they cancel confidence. They teach you that you must choose between being loved and being true. They force you to pick safety over authenticity. They condition you to believe that belonging is earned by sacrificing the parts of you that do not fit the mold. Confidence crumbles, not just when you are criticized, but when you are celebrated for being someone you are no longer willing to be. It crumbles when the cost of keeping the love you have been given is the slow death of your evolving self. But even here, in this painful awareness, there is a quiet invitation. An invitation to choose differently. To choose yourself even if it means losing some of the applause. To choose your real growth over the comfort of old expectations. To honor the person you are becoming even if it means stepping out of the spaces where you were once adored. True confidence is not found in being admired by many. It is found in being true even when it costs you the admiration of the crowd. It is found in standing in your own truth even when your voice shakes, even when the room grows quiet, even when the smiles fade. Imagine for a moment what it would feel like to let go of the need to be understood by everyone. To release the burden of carrying their expectations. To walk forward not because you are certain you will be applauded, but because you are certain that the path you are on belongs to you. That kind of confidence does not arrive all at once. It grows slowly, in small acts of courage, in quiet moments of self-loyalty, in the brave decision to keep walking even when the path is lonely. Each time you choose your truth over someone else's approval, you build a deeper foundation inside yourself. Each time you risk being misunderstood in order to be authentic, you reclaim another piece of your spirit. Over time, you stop fearing the silence that follows when you stop performing. You stop needing the constant validation that once felt like oxygen. You learn to breathe on your own again. You learn to listen to your own inner applause. And you discover that your worth was never meant to be measured by the noise outside of you. It was always humming quietly within you, waiting for you to hear it. There is a power that comes from knowing who you are apart from who others believe you to be. A freedom that comes from standing in your own story without needing others to understand every chapter. A peace that comes from loving the messy, evolving, complicated self that you are, without waiting for someone else to stamp it with approval. Imagine loving yourself with the same tenderness you once reserved for the perfect image you thought you had to maintain. Imagine honoring your growth even when it looks awkward and unfinished. Imagine trusting that your becoming is beautiful even when no one claps for it. The compliment that cancels confidence loses its grip the moment you realize you do not need it to define you, that you never needed it to be worthy, that you never needed it to be enough. Your real strength comes not from how many admire you, but from how deeply you admire the person you are becoming, from how bravely you walk your own path even when it winds away from familiar places, from how gently you hold yourself when you stumble, when you doubt, when you fear you have lost your way. You have not lost your way. You have only stepped off the stage and into your own life. And here, off stage, in the quiet and the realness, is where true confidence is born. Here is where you remember that you were never meant to be a polished statue. You were always meant to be a living, breathing, growing soul. Love not for how perfectly you perform, but for how fully you are willing to be yourself. Picture walking through a garden that you once planted for the approval of others. Every flower was chosen carefully. Every path was shaped according to what would be admired. You tended it with great care. You smiled when they praised its beauty. You felt proud when they marveled at the work you had done. But one day, you realized that while the garden is lovely, it does not feel like home. It feels like a place you built for everyone else to visit, not a place where you yourself can rest. The flowers are beautiful, but they are not the ones you would have chosen. The paths are perfect, but they do not lead where you long to go. You realize that the applause you once lived for built you a life that does not feed your soul. And standing there, in the middle of it all, you are faced with a quiet and sacred choice. You can continue tending this garden forever, keeping it beautiful for others, keeping it polished and admired. Or you can begin the harder, lonelier, more honest work of tearing it down and planting something new, something wild, something true, something that belongs only to you. This is the real work of reclaiming confidence. It is not about becoming more polished. It is not about earning more applause. It is about tearing up the roots of old expectations and daring to ask yourself what you would grow if no one else was watching. It is about letting go of the compliments that once defined you and finding the courage to define yourself. Confidence that depends on admiration will always be fragile. It will always tremble in the face of silence. It will always shrink under the weight of criticism. But confidence built on self-truth is different. It is quieter, but stronger. It does not shout. It does not need to be seen to exist. It hums within you like a steady drumbeat, reminding you that you are enough simply because you are, not because you impress, not because you achieve, not because you meet someone else's impossible standard, but because you exist, because you breathe, because you dare to be yourself in a world that constantly tries to mold you into something safer, smaller, more acceptable. The path to rebuilding real confidence is not a straight one. It twists, it dips, it circles back on itself. Some days you will feel strong and certain. Other days you will question everything. You will hear the old voices whispering in your mind, telling you that you are foolish for letting go of what made you loved. You will be tempted to return to the safety of the garden you built for others. But you will also feel something else, a growing sense of lightness, a growing sense of peace, a growing sense of aliveness that no amount of applause could ever give you. Because now, finally, you are living your own life. You are speaking your own truth. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. And even when it feels lonely, even when it feels terrifying, you will know deep down that it is right, that it is real, that it is yours. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing you no longer need the compliments to feel worthy. You no longer need the applause to feel alive. You no longer need the approval of those who only loved the version of you that fit their expectations. You are free, free to be extraordinary, free to be ordinary, free to fail, free to succeed, free to grow in directions no one else understands, free to live for the quiet joy of your own becoming. This is what it means to cancel the compliment that once canceled your confidence. It means taking back your voice. It means taking back your dreams. It means taking back your life, not as a performance, not as a product, but as a living, breathing, messy, magnificent human journey. You were never meant to be a statue, polished and admired from a distance. You were meant to be a garden that grows wild and true, fed by your own hands, blooming in your own time, beautiful in ways that no one else can fully understand but you. And in that wildness, in that truth, in that unapologetic becoming, you will find a confidence deeper and stronger than any compliment could ever give you, a confidence that no one can cancel. A confidence that is yours and yours alone, the trust that traps tomorrow. Picture a quiet road stretching far into the distance. You walk it each day, feeling the earth under your feet, feeling the slow pull of tomorrow guiding you forward. Along this road you meet someone who offers a shortcut. They smile with ease. Their voice is warm. They promise that if you just trust them, your path will be smoother, easier, better. At first, it feels like a blessing. You have been walking so long on your own, carrying your dreams on tired shoulders. Their offer feels like a place to rest, a place to put down your burdens. You listen, you believe, you hand them pieces of your hopes, trusting that they will carry them with the same care you would. And for a while, it works. You move forward together. You laugh. You dream. You make plans for roads you have not yet seen. You tell yourself that trust is the key to building something greater, that leaning on someone else is a sign of strength, not weakness. And in many ways, it is. But trust, once given, is not so easily retrieved. It is a bridge built between two souls. It is a weight shared between two hands. It is a bond that whispers, "I believe in you enough to let you hold part of my future." What you do not notice at first is how the road begins to curve in ways you had not planned. Small, at first. Barely noticeable. You adjust your steps without thinking. You tell yourself it is normal. Compromise, partnership, growth. But deep down there is a whisper of doubt. A whisper that wonders if this new path is really your own. Still, you silence the whisper. Because trust means faith. Trust means patience. Trust means enduring small discomforts for a greater good. You tell yourself it will all make sense in the end. You tell yourself that the slight unease you feel is just fear trying to steal something good. So you walk on. You walk even when the ground feels unfamiliar. You walk even when the scenery no longer matches the dreams you once carried. And all the while, tomorrow reshapes itself quietly ahead of you, molded not by your own hand, but by the hands you placed your trust in. Trust is a powerful thing. It builds nations. It forges families. It creates love that spans lifetimes. But trust can also be a trap when it demands too much silence. When it asks for your surrender instead of your partnership. When it twists your future into something you no longer recognize but feel too bound to leave behind. The trust that traps tomorrow does not steal your dreams all at once. It changes them slowly, tenderly, so that you almost believe you chose the changes yourself. You almost believe you wanted them all along. You start to doubt your own memory. Was that really your dream, or was it always meant to become this? Was your plan ever truly yours, or was it always leading here? These questions gnaw at the edges of your mind, soft and persistent. You bury them under gratitude, under duty, under the heavy blanket of promises made and paths already traveled. You tell yourself it is too late to turn back. You tell yourself trust is sacred, that breaking it would be worse than losing yourself quietly over time. But deep inside, a different voice stirs. A voice that remembers who you were before you surrendered your tomorrows. A voice that remembers the roads you once longed to walk. A voice that wonders if trust, real trust, would ever have asked you to erase so much of yourself. Real trust, after all, is not about control. It is not about shaping someone into something safer, something smaller, something more convenient. Real trust is about holding space for someone else's wildness. It is about believing that their path, even when it diverges from your own, is worthy and beautiful and right. If your trust demands that you forget your dreams to preserve someone else's comfort, it is not trust. It is a quiet form of captivity. If your trust asks you to shrink so that someone else's world stays orderly, it is not love. It is fear masquerading as care. The road you walk belongs to you. Your tomorrows belong to you. And no matter how far you have walked down a road that no longer feels like yours, it is never too late to choose again. It is never too late to listen to the voice that still whispers from deep inside you. The voice that has not forgotten. The voice that still dreams. And when you hear it, really hear it, you will realize something. Trust should never cost you your future. Trust should never cost you yourself. Trust that demands your silence is not trust. It is surrender in disguise. Trust that traps your tomorrow is not a gift. It is a cage woven from kindness, painted with promises, sealed with smiles. But you hold the key. You always have. Picture standing still in the middle of the road you once trusted so much. You look around and realize that the landscape feels unfamiliar. The dreams that once filled your horizon are distant now, like echoes from another life. You stand there holding the pieces of promises that were once so bright and so sure, and you feel the weight of a choice pressing against your chest. To move forward blindly would be easy. It would require no confrontation, no painful conversations, no unraveling of the beautiful illusions that have wrapped themselves around your journey. But to move forward without questioning would be to lose yourself even further, and something deep inside you knows that some losses are too great to justify with convenience. You remember when trust felt like a warm blanket, something you could wrap yourself in without fear. You remember how it soothed you, how it quieted the doubts that used to scratch at the back of your mind. But now you can see the difference between real trust and the kind that cages you quietly over time. Real trust makes you stronger. Real trust allows you to expand. Real trust honors your changing heart, your evolving dreams, your growing soul. The trust that traps tomorrow does not do that. It asks you to stay the same, to keep playing the same role, to keep sacrificing your future so that the present remains comfortable for others. You start to notice all the small places where you have made yourself smaller. All the little agreements you said yes to when your soul wanted to scream no. You start to see how every time you quieted your instincts to preserve the peace, you handed away another piece of your own tomorrow. Trust is supposed to build bridges, but when those bridges only ever lead you further from yourself, they stop being bridges. They become cages stretched across empty fields, dressed up to look like freedom. The hardest part is realizing that no one else will rescue you. No one else will come to untangle the knots you tied yourself into for the sake of belonging. No one else will hand you back the pieces of your future you gave away too easily. It has to be you. It has to start with the smallest act of defiance, the smallest act of remembrance. It has to start with you standing in the middle of the road and daring to ask, what do I want now? Not what was promised, not what was planned, not what was expected. What do I want now? The first answer might not come easily. It might be quiet. It might be painful. Because sometimes the first answer is realizing how long you have been living someone else's dream instead of your own. But the act of asking is a crack in the cage. The act of listening is a seed of freedom. And once you ask the question, you will never be able to unhear the answer. You will feel fear. You will feel guilt. You will feel the heavy tug of old loyalty pulling at your feet, begging you to stay. But you will also feel something else, something lighter, something older than all your fear. You will feel your own soul stirring, stretching, remembering what it feels like to move freely, to dream freely, to exist without asking permission. Trust should never be a leash. It should be a hand held lightly, a bond that strengthens your journey instead of steering it. It should lift you, not limit you. It should inspire you, not trap you. And when you see clearly that the trust you once offered has been used to shape you into something smaller, you will face another choice: to speak, to act, to risk disappointing those who benefited from your silence, to risk being called disloyal, ungrateful, lost. But you will know that the greater betrayal would be to abandon yourself again. Trusting yourself again after being trapped is not easy. You will second-guess every step. You will doubt every decision. You will wonder if you are just running from fear instead of running toward freedom. This is part of the healing. This is part of reclaiming your right to shape your own tomorrows. The confusion, the hesitation, the aching sadness for what might have been if only the trust had been pure. You may grieve the version of yourself that believed so fully, so innocently. You may miss the simplicity of the days when you could hand your dreams to someone else and rest without question. But over time, you will come to treasure the strength that comes from walking your own road, the strength that comes from listening first to your own voice, the strength that comes from building a future rooted not in promises from others, but in promises you make to yourself. Imagine that each step you take from this moment forward is a thread weaving a new future. A future built with your own hands, a future shaped by your own heart, no longer trapped by the expectations of those you once trusted too much, no longer bound by the dreams that were never truly yours. It will not be perfect. Some days you will stumble. Some days you will long for the false comfort of the old road. But if you keep moving, if you keep trusting the small voice within you, you will build something real, something lasting, something that no one can take from you. You will no longer fear tomorrow because you will know that it belongs to you again, not to promises, not to expectations, not to old loyalty, but to you. And that is a kind of freedom no cage can ever contain. Picture yourself walking again. This time, the road is your own. It is uneven in places. The path bends in ways you cannot predict. There are no clear markers telling you where to step next. But there is a quiet certainty in your chest that was not there before. A soft but steady knowing that you are no longer moving for anyone else's comfort. You are moving for yourself. You begin to realize that reclaiming your future is not about grand gestures. It is about small choices made again and again. Choosing your truth over convenience. Choosing your heart over habit. Choosing your own voice over the familiar pull of someone else's map. Some days, it feels like a battle. Some days, the old trust still tugs at you like an old song, a melody of promises and comfort and belonging. But you know better now. You know that true belonging can never come at the cost of your own becoming. The people you trusted might not understand. They might call your new path selfish. They might tell stories about how you changed, how you abandoned what you had built together, how you forgot the promises you made. And there will be a part of you that aches under the weight of those words, a part of you that wants to go back, to smooth it over, to make it easy again. But you will also know a deeper truth. You will know that the promises you made when you did not yet understand yourself are not chains you are required to carry forever. You will know that growth is not betrayal. That change is not abandonment. That choosing yourself does not make you cruel. It makes you alive. You will come to see that real trust does not trap you. It frees you. Real trust says, I believe in your becoming, even when I do not understand it. Real trust says, I want you to walk your own road, even if it leads away from me. Real trust says, I love you enough to let you change. And you will learn to build that kind of trust within yourself. You will learn to trust your own confusion, to trust your own questions, to trust the parts of you that are still unfolding. You will stop demanding certainty from yourself before you allow yourself to move. You will trust that even the wrong turns are part of the right path, that even the missteps are leading you somewhere necessary. Imagine that with every step you take, the bonds that once held your future hostage grow weaker. Imagine feeling the weight lift from your chest, one thread at a time. Imagine breathing deeper, laughing louder, dreaming wider. Not because anyone told you it was safe to do so, but because you decided you no longer needed their permission. The trust that once trapped tomorrow loses its power when you reclaim today. When you refuse to defer your dreams for the sake of promises that no longer fit. When you remember that every sunrise offers a new beginning, not a continuation of old patterns you were too afraid to break. You will begin to find people who see you as you are now, not as you were. People who do not need you to perform a role to be worthy of love. People who celebrate your questions instead of silencing them. People who remind you that your becoming is not a threat, but a miracle. You will begin to find dreams that feel light again. Dreams that do not demand you carry them alone. Dreams that do not come attached to invisible cages. Dreams that invite you to grow, to stumble, to rise again without shame. And most importantly, you will find yourself, not the version of yourself that was shaped by someone else's hands, not the version that was edited for applause, but the raw, living, breathing you. The you that was always there beneath the layers of expectation. The you that remembers how to dance without fear, how to speak without trembling, how to dream without permission. The trust that traps tomorrow can feel like love at first. It can feel like safety. It can feel like belonging. But true love does not ask you to trade your freedom for acceptance. True safety is found not in locking yourself away, but in stepping fully into your own life. True belonging comes when you belong first to yourself. Picture yourself now, standing on a new road. A road that twists and turns and disappears into the mist. A road that offers no guarantees, no promises of easy answers, but a road that is fully, completely, undeniably yours. You feel the fear, yes, but you also feel the exhilaration. You feel the air rush into your lungs like the first real breath you have taken in years. You feel the ground solid beneath your feet, not because someone else prepared it for you, but because you chose to stand here. This is what it means to free tomorrow. To step away from the cages you once called trust. To walk boldly into the unknown because you trust yourself enough to face whatever comes. To believe that no matter what happens, you will not abandon yourself again. The road is not easy, but it is real, and it is yours. And somewhere, just beyond the bend, your tomorrow waits. Not trapped, not bargained away, not shaped by anyone else's hands, but free. Waiting to meet you as you truly are. And that's it. Hope you're in peace. Just consider subscribing, because sleep matters. Just then, stress scatters, and nothing else matters, right? Peace out.